Ladies, gents and others, welcome to the final episode of Rift Rush. We had a wonderful series of games here at the fourth week of the playoffs in the NACL. And we found out who was the cream of the crop between all the teams in this split. So stay tuned because we'll summarize it here for you in Rift Rush. Conviction against Luminosity Gaming. Everything started with a surprise. Kogmo in mid lane for LG, and it turned out pretty well for them, as they dominated from the start to finish. And at minute 32, with an excellent team fight, they secured the first win of the series. In the second match, LG seemed to be heading for a 2-0 lead by prioritizing every objective. But at minute 30, Daunt appeared with a direct hook on Tactical, changing the course of the map. Conviction took control, and at minute 39, they hunted LG in their own jungle, tying the series 1-1. In the third map, it was an absolute stomp from LG. Despite Conviction's attempts, the damage was uncontrollable. At minute 26, Tomio descended with his Pantheon from the heavens to score a quadra kill. 3 minutes later, LG closed the game with a 16,000 gold lead. The fourth game was loaded with surprise picks. Conviction with Tryndamere top and Vayne ADC. LG with Qiyana jungler and Veigar mid. And also a Taric support. The early game was even, but at minute 14, LG started another stomp, with Tomio unstoppable with Qiyana. At minute 27, they closed the series 3-1 and advanced to the grand final. Who took LG to the finalist spot? Well, everyone in the team, of course, but in this series specifically, our prospects are Fagod, Tomio and Seiso. And with an unmatched skill in the jungle, Tomio takes the MVP. Now, before continuing, we will introduce you to our top 3 rookies of the year. And being a menace in the top lane, our dear Hoarder takes the first place. What do you think? Let us know in the comments below. Now, we continue with the second series of the week. An intense set of games. Supernova against Blue Otters. We started with a fairly even game in gold, but at minute 34, the Otters won both Teamfight and Baron, tilting the game in their favor, and with that advantage, they took the first game. In the second map, the game was slower. Despite Blue Otters leading in kills, the gold remained fairly even. But with excellent objective control, Supernova couldn't match the Otters' power, and the series continued with a 2-0. In the third match, the Otters surprised everyone by unleashing a mid-Seraphine and a top Mordekaiser. Despite leading at minute 19, Supernova won a team fight that gave them hope. But the others held on, and at minute 34, with an excellent TP from Quacker, they exterminated Supernova and took the series 3-0. Kryra, Samikin and Array are our MVPs for this series, showing that the Otters deserve a place amongst the top. But our most valuable player this time was Samikin, with his excellent control in lane. We are now just one game away from our finals, and with the team that led the regular season out of orbit, let's find out who's going to challenge LG for their crown. Conviction started with a Riven in the bot lane, but she didn't go bot. They swapped lanes, with Viper going top and TF Blade going bot, dominating both lanes and finishing with over a 12,000 gold lead. In the second game, The Otters defended with an unstoppable Samikin, finishing and winning the game 15-0, with Mel tying the series. The third map was a fairly evenly matched game in terms of objectives, kills and goals, but a single battle was enough to decide the outcome. The Otters won the Dragon Soul, but Conviction won the fight, making the series 2-1. The fourth game was once again even. 40 minutes of high tension. Although the balance was tilted in favor of the Otters, Perry, with a devastating ultimate, set up a perfect combo for Conviction, taking the victory 3-1, moving on to the grand finals against Luminosity Gaming. Wow, that was an intense series of games, but now at last we have our two finalists. And it's time to see if the Kings will prove their worth or if the challengers will take their heads off. Here at the NACL Great Finale. This has been Rift Rush. Thank you for watching.
Bienvenidos and welcome, y'all. We have our grand finals for Split 2 playoffs here in the NACL of the 2025 season. My name is Mark Rafa Alexander Aramida. I'm joined once again by Mr. Matthew Cubby, David Samuelson. The full name, you're getting the full package from both of us today because it is going to be an absolute banger of a series. I was holding back on it, but you know what? We already know what's about to happen here, Matt.
Grand Finals, good to be back one last time for the split here, Rafa, as we have Luminosity Gaming, the team that has been just absolutely a buzzsaw throughout the playoff bracket, going up against Conviction, the streamer team that frankly no one thought would be here before the split started, but have earned their spot and a lot of respect across the league with how they played throughout the year. And we'll see if they can do what no team has been able to do so far in playoffs today, and that is challenge Luminosity Gaming.
And while we definitely want to get into the gritty details and all of the juicy prospects about how this series is going to turn out, we have some prospects that we got to cover regarding most valuable prospect nominations to cap off the end of this split 2. Now, yesterday's show, we did mention and highlight some of our third place and second place nominations, and we even got a chance to catch up with them. Starting with our third place nomination for most valuable prospect, here's what Tactical had to say.
We won last split, so that's a good start. But obviously, the split that matters more is the second split. I think in the last week, we've been doing really well, so I'm pretty confident that we're going to win the tournament. Personally, for me, I'm confident that, honestly, that we can just straight up reach the promotion stage. Like, I think we'll take out DSG. I think all of us are feeling pretty good about it, and it's exciting to play versus an LTA team again. I think I learned a lot about how important it is to have a direction when you're on a team. No matter what level of play it is, it's always important to have a direction. I've learned from Tristan or Zazel, and he's a pretty big leader in our team, so that's for our team goal. That's what I learned. And individually, I think it's just the same thing for AD carry especially. It's about maintaining your self-form well and individual mechanics well. There's many factors that lead to me having like a lot of farm. Obviously, one factor is if your team is winning, you have more opportunities or free time to farm. But at the same time, I think we as a team, we prioritize my condition to be good. They make sure my farm is also good on the map, and they don't let me get screwed over. Yeah, I think it's really cool to be considered that high for the prospects. So I always appreciate the input from everyone else, every other player and teams. I guess it's cool. It's always cool to always be considered that. Yeah, I appreciate everyone who helped vote for me, especially to be maybe first pro all team and MVP possibly. I think it's really cool that I can look like that way to other people. You know, I don't always consider myself the highest, but it's always nice the outside I receive like the glory coming in. So I really appreciate that from everyone else, but I also want to thank my teammates because, you know, from my perspective, it's always a team game, and AD carry can be really volatile in that regard with how you look. So big shout out to my team for making me look good. Yeah, so we're in the finals now. I'm really excited, looking forward to that. That means we also qualify for the promotion tournament, so I'm also looking for that too, forward to that too. But the job's not done. We gotta close out our own season and end strong. I'm looking for that first place still, and also that first place is in the promotion tournament after.
Ups to Eddie, and when we think back to when we first created the Most Valuable Prospect Award, our first recipient was Dokla, a player that wasn't necessarily someone that was just coming up for the first time. He was making his rounds back through tier 3 all the way through tier 2, and it was a good way to show that pro to journey is not a straight linear line here, man.
It isn't, and it's been cool to see Dokla prove that yet again with his performance in the LTA.
Yep.
I will say that in years past, the criteria for the award is wins above replacement 2 years out. Another part of it has been not playing professional for the past 2 years, so I never considered Tactical in my personal voting, but did hold him as one of the better players we've had in the league for the entire duration of the years. So definitely props to him at a good year, and we'll see if he can win the finals today.
Yeah. Speaking of which, going to our second place nomination for Most Valuable Prospect, someone that is making their run up in Tier 2, just debuting in Tier 2 for the first time this year, is actually Hoarder, the top laner Rookie of the Year from Supernova, and then formerly from Conviction Esports in a prior split. Here's what he had to say on his nomination.
The change of teams, it was definitely interesting. I went from a lot of rookies on my team on Conviction to 4 veterans on Supernova, and there's a pretty big difference in how the team dynamic worked. But overall, I think it's definitely a nice experience working with a lot of veterans as a rookie. I feel like they can help me, they can guide me through a lot of games, and there's a lot of leadership roles where I can't fulfill where they can. So I think that is a good mix. Especially as a rookie, to be on a team with 4 veterans. I think with the very close 2-3 finish against Strike Zero, it was definitely pretty devastating to lose there, but it helped me grow and improve as a player a lot, especially playing all of those games on stage. That was my first time playing in Tier 2, and I was pretty nervous playing at like a new stage after that split, and after a very close finish into the finals. I think that that's helped me be more confident as a player. It kind of showed me that this is something that I can do, so I just have to play my game, and I don't have to be nervous. I just have to play well, and then I can make it to finals. I'm definitely more of a player that can stand out a lot, or I can, you know, make some mistakes that can be pretty costly. But I think that overall, I've shown myself to be a very powerful contender in the NACL, and I believe that I showed a very good performance, and I'm glad a lot of people have thought so as well. And yeah, I think that I'm on my way to be one of the best players. Honestly, I didn't think that I would be like that close in the running for MVP. I think that I personally would have given myself like another year before I could, like next year, I think at the path that I'm going, like on the path of improvement that I'm on right now, I can definitely get MVP next year, but I didn't think I would be so close this year. That's really, like, I'm really happy to hear that, and that makes me really motivated to kind of just keep improving and then get that #1 title next year. You know, just show everybody that I haven't reached my limit yet, and I'm going to keep on improving, and I'm going to be that most valuable prospect.
Rookie of the Year, and then getting even considered in the All-Pro running for top laner, and even considered second place for most valuable prospect. Not a bad way to start off your Tier 2 career as Hoarder.
Yeah, he was my first place vote this split. Highly lauded player coming in. A lot of people didn't know if the solo queue achievements would translate to the stage. I'd say they did. It was a great year for Hoarder. I know it wasn't the result he wanted in playoffs, but hey, runner-up for MV prospect. Hopefully throws that in a couple resumes, and we see what team he ends up on for the upcoming season. Because as he said, let's continue to try and play pro, and he should have a seat. He was quite good this year.
Absolutely. And for us here, we definitely expect even greater heights for him in the upcoming 2026 season for NACL. Now, it is now time to finally reveal, as we didn't disclose, our #1 recipient for Most Valuable Prospect Award. Here's what he had to say.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing from this split compared to the other splits was I actually knew how to improve and work on the things that I needed to work on. I had a couple of things in mind that I really wanted to improve on, and I had a clear path to achieve those goals, and it helped me work a lot smarter so I could improve faster in such a short amount of time. This split, I grew more as a player than I did in my other 3 splits in NACL, and I think it's just the mindset and having the tools to improve and knowing how to use them better. Being on Dark Zero this split, I had to really step up as a leader, kind of get rid of the mindset that I'm still like a rookie, and I had a lot of shoes to fill after we lost a lot of the voices on our team. It was a big challenge. I think at first I really struggled to step in those shoes. It really pushed me to be better, and I think I did an okay job at that towards the end of the split, but I wish I did better for sure, yeah. Great players' careers where they have to kind of step up like that. So that was the split for me. And yeah, like I said, I think I did kind of a poor job at first, but I think I kind of got to the hang of it later. Yeah, I had to just shift away from like I'm the rookie mindset. I had to like step up, kind of lead the game how I want it to be led, use my lead better, shot call more, and kind of be more vocal as a teammate and in game as a player. And I think being MVP Prospect 1, the biggest difference for me was just less about the gameplay and more about my mindset, just how to win in a standard fashion and improving the things I really needed to improve on, because I think compared to when I was a rookie to now, I had a lot of flaws, and I think I really just looked inwards on how to fix them, and I put a lot of work into them. A middle of the pack OQ laner probably, and now I think I got my laning to like a top NACL level. For me, it feels great. That was one of my goals this year. You know, it's a kind of a small thing, but getting that award means a lot to just kind of show my improvement and make me feel a little bit better about that my hard work wasn't kind of going to waste.
Congratulations and absolutely deserved to Sajed for winning our Most Valuable Prospect of the Split Award here for NA Split 2 in the 2025 season. I think when you consider the scenario and the environment that he had to be in after the departure of Yuji and then Spirax and Zamudo, that was a majority of the strength of the core, and obviously Sajed and Zyko remained on that Dark Zero roster going into Split 2. But you think about, and he said it best, he had to step up and try and be not just a leader, but also have the right mindset to be the highest clutch playmaker that we had as an AD carry in his role when Dark Zero really needed him to.
Yeah, look, I think it's really impressive that Dark Zero were able to pump out another Most Valuable Prospect after Yuji and Sajed. It was definitely someone, I remember when he was picked up by FlyQuest, they were hoping that it was Masu V2. The fact that he actually won the award now in his second year of NACL, that makes another Most Valuable Prospect that Masu has. So I guess FlyQuest, good read from them. Dark Zero able to continue the development, and Sajed did have a fantastic split. So props to him. We got to keep things trucking, Rafa. I will say you can join us, all the conversation, and see all these Most Valuable Prospect videos on our socials. Follow us on NACL and at WatchNACL on X specifically with the hashtag NACL. But we got to keep things going because we got a game to get to, Rafa. We got finals coming up.
Yep, we gotta be able to show everyone how we got here in the first place. Grand finals between Luminosity Gaming and Conviction Esports. We started with what was an upper bracket final between the same two teams. So this is now an upper bracket final rematch, as Conviction was sent to the lower bracket by Luminosity. They had one last chance against Blue Otter. They were victorious in a 3-1 victory and have clawed their way back here in the grand final. Now, remember, both of these teams are guaranteed to go to the LTA promotion tournament happening in just a few weeks from now, starting in October. But the importance is, if you get first seed, you automatically get a bye past the play-in stage, where you will guarantee yourself in that double elimination bracket. Whereas if you get the second seed and lose here in grand finals, then you have to play against the second seed from the LRN in order to make it into the double elimination bracket.
Also, that's the team with Summit, Ghost, Winsome, Cody on it, and Solid Snake. So that's a pretty solid team that you don't want to play up against in order to see if you can face Disguised or not. So we do have some real stakes behind this on top of the NACL prize pool, too, that these guys are fighting for. So, diving in, we got some rosters to take care of, Rafa, as we have familiar faces on the Rift in the Grand Finals. They have been competing and winning throughout our upper bracket, and we're going to start off with those LTA rejects themselves, looking to book that ticket, take another step towards being able to take down DSG in that LTA promotion tournament that is Luminosity Gaming.
That's right, the defending NACL's champions from Split 1, as you called out, Fake God, Tomio, Insanity Tactical, and Zazel. These guys are no strangers to being back-to-back champions, as a majority of this roster was on that Cloud9 Challengers 2023 spring roster that then eventually transitioned over to Disguised roster and still won the NACL. This would be the only other time where an org has won back-to-back championships, hosted by Team Liquid Academy back in 2022. But their opponents, it is the rematch from the upper bracket final in Conviction Esports with TF Blade, Perry, Evolved, Viper, and Stun.
Yeah, and Perry, actually a return to the finals for him. As Perry, a player that initially made finals subbing in for Dignitas.
Yep.
And that roster hopping in, he played with Insanity. To actually make it to those finals, and was a part of the loss to TL in that final as well. So definitely some history between those two players as well. But we got to keep things moving. We got draft coming up, predictions from our crew. See if we have anyone going to the side of Conviction. As I think Luminosity Gaming coming in are the heavy favorites, and as a casting crew, we feel the same way. They've really yet to be challenged in this playoff bracket. They dropped the singular map to Conviction, but the rest of that 3-1 was very one-sided.
Yeah, I know a few of us on the broadcast desk, the last time these two teams faced against each other, had given some hope over to Conviction Esports in the predictions, but with the absolute dominating series that Luminosity were able to demonstrate last time, I think this is where most likely the series is going to end up. However, if Conviction Esports are able to show a lot more creativity in how they are playing the lanes, a little preview of what we got in the Blue Otter series, swapping some laners around, having TF Blade come to the bot lane. Maybe I might throw a curveball in the loop here against Luminosity Gaming.
Yeah, I know the ribbon, always big loop there that TF Blade can throw. We'll see if that ends up on the ban list or not for this one, as he has showed that he is very ready and willing to pull that one out in the bot lane and has played with great success so far. So Conviction, look, I think that Blue Otter yesterday, they said in that loss that Conviction they found to be a very difficult team to prep for. And we'll see what happens in draft, because for me, Conviction probably needs edges in draft to actually win against Luminosity Gaming. I thought the one game they did win against LG, they had a very advantageous draft that really caught LG off guard. And okay, we're diving in. All right, let's keep things moving, Ross. So we got to play some catch up.
So, Pantheon, Galio, Nico, pretty solid engaged methods. You have a lot of global power on the side of Luminosity Gaming. Conviction Esports, they have Wombo combo ability already with that Wukong and Oriana Shockwave delivery system. Jax, a solid duelist and split pusher capable in the hands of TF Blade. I think this was a good answer and a response from Conviction Esports last time as they started dropping tank options and trying to give a little bit more agency to TF Blade in the side lane.
This is the most banned pick against Conviction, is the Jax. So we'll see what TF Blade can do as he gets to take away a few counters if he wants. I do want to highlight the bans real quick. No, we're playing catch-up, but Talia, Ambessa, Yunara, and then Malachi, Azir, Rumble. We have to keep track of those bans throughout the series, because throughout side swaps and just being on the blue side where you have a lot of power, you have more power to switch up the bans on that side to set up for what you want to open with. So we'll see how that changes as the series does evolve. But Lucian being taken away, we'll see what the choice of bot lane is here for Conviction, as Viper has really been at his best when he's been able to step up and play aggressive.
Even though it's not the Kaisa that will synergize with that dive identity, I think it's a good call for Viper to go with something a little bit more flexible in terms of safety. He's going to rely on his team to be able to make the plays in the back line by themselves, and then it's just all about Viper being able to identify when his moments will be to go in on the Ezreal, arcane shifting in aggressively. Whereas Luminosity now, they're thinking about, do we want to all in on the diving identity? And it definitely synergizes with the rest of what their composition has.
Take the Kaisa. It's good in this draft. If Viper plays it really well, you already have a good pairing and a good matchup, a lot of good pieces around it. So I think Fake God needs to take another tool to try and close the gap. You have a very short-range composition right now in Luminosity Gaming. It is about winning that front line and being able to play up front. So I think any champion that can feed into that for Fake God is key. Aatrox, those Qs now really trying to play for those powers of the zone. We'll say that Jax can win out on that 1v1 though. So we'll see if TF played on a champion that again has been denied from him most against Conviction and for himself. He can use that pick that he has played so well in solo queue historically to carry this one. And I gotta say, it is a decent setup for Jax.
Yeah, looking at the composition that Luminosity have, I want to call back to the fact that there's a lot of global power in this Pantheon and the Galio, and that's a lot of early game strength that you're going to have at your disposal. I think those two in Insanity and Tomir are going to be the key in trying to get a solid snowball going, because like you said, the matchup is more favored for Jax against Aatrox, but if you get Galio and Pantheon interference going and you give the gold advantage over to the Aatrox, then into the composition that Conviction Esports has, mostly melee, somewhat short range, Ezreal's the only one that can kind of escape that range of Aatrox, but if he is bashing on 4 other people, Ezreal's not going to be able to turn the tide of that battle.
No, and look, the way I view this game, Conviction, what's showing for them, it's a lot of scaling. That Jax Orianna, they need time to scale. They are not going to be stronger early on against Aatrox, Galio, Pantheon on that top side. So Luminosity Gaming, this team has been so good in the playoffs. A big part of that has been about their early games. On average, they're up 1,700 gold at the 15-minute mark. This is a comp that does need that sort of lead to operate later on, and they have a lot of tools to do it. So we'll see if the Panth Galio and everyone can link up and actually play this one out to get themselves that early lead that they will need later on against the scaling champs of Conviction.
While we have some time loading up onto the Rift, we do want to point out our main head-to-head for this series. It is in the mid lane between Insanity and Evolved. Both of these players so key to the success of their teams, but I think when we look at some of the picks that they've gone for in the past, especially in this playoff series or playoff bracket, it's been very, very different.
I feel like Insanity, and maybe it's just the bias that we're seeing him really hard commit to these artillery mages first, but I feel like he's really warped the mid pool. He was first to playing the Ziggs mid. We did see that a little bit in Wazir, but he started picking it into more than just that. The Kog'Maw mid that has looked absurdly strong. We are even seeing it in game ones. It was good enough where Evolved even picked it up for himself. So we didn't get time to really set up drafts we're expecting for later games, given we ripped through that one. But definitely going to be key to see both these players have really been mage-centric and artillery mage-centric at that for this playoff run. And for me, I think that both these bids have played fantastic this year. I think Insanity was a little bit flat in regular season, but playoffs come around. He's been in form. Evolve was actually my vote for first team All-Pro. I thought he had a fantastic split in the regular season. It's still been very good for his team in playoffs too. So definitely a good matchup. Pans back to, versions of Academy of old, thinking back when Evolved was in there and Insanity was kind of hopping around trying to find his footing before he did in Immortals. A lot of history, of course, with many of the Conviction players being Academy and LCS players before they ended up being streamers.
Yeah, it is really cool to see how, even though we are in the year 2025, we're seeing a matchup between players that were coming up around in the same class, the same era, and obviously the paths were different over the years, but this is now a chance where both of these mid laners can have that opportunity to be the key success, the key driver in trying to guarantee a step closer to facing off against Disguise for a shot into the LTA for the 2026 season.
And folks, you can vote who you think will win this game one. Have your voices heard in our Twitch chat, so please put hashtag LG, hashtag Conviction before we dive in so you can win this series. And of course, Rafa, as you highlighted earlier on, Matt, it's really crazy to think Fake God, Tomio, Zazel, last time we had them here, they went back-to-back between Cloud9 Challengers and Disguise. A chance to do so again with Luminosity Gaming. We do call these guys the LTA rejects for a reason, because whenever we see them here, they win. And if you win here, you probably should be playing at that higher level. Well, this split, they get a chance to earn it, and Luminosity Gaming can take another step on that path to earning it with a win here in our NACL Finals.
It's time to see this clash finally come to a start and see where both of these teams lie at the end of that road. It all starts here with Game 1 between Luminosity Gaming and Conviction Esports.
All right, Rafa, I think something that Luminosity Gaming has done so well throughout their run is just turning one small lead into another, and eventually into the map, and doing so in a manner that doesn't have the same mistakes we've seen from some of our other NACL teams. So definitely want to really lock in, focus on that, and see if they can get that similar start in this game. As if they do, the semi-globals of both the Pantheon and the Galio are really going to help snowball this one forward as this game starts with a good chunk on the TF Blades Jax that I think important to note, he's going to be rocking the phase rush this game to help him get out of some of those sweet spots and tethers from the Aatrox.
I don't know top lane matchups, but that sounds good to me, Matt. And
That's a one-trick rune for sure, though, because Grasp and Conquer are also quite good in that champion. So you're sacrificing that to take Blue Tree. Not as common, but this definitely has to be matchup specific. I got to say, against Aatrox as Jax, I'm used to... I don't usually see this. Usually it's like a lethal tempo, and you try and find that for an all-in angle. Or you take Grasp, make sure you can't die.
I can definitely understand if I'm forced to roll swap or autofill like Gragas top lane and I'm playing in the Aatrox. I definitely need the movement speed to try and dodge those, so it makes sense to me. We'll see if TF Blade can use that keystone difference to overcome any of the laning difficulties and have that advantage into the Aatrox, because I know you mentioned that overall this was a pretty darn good spot to have Jax locked in, and it has been banned away a majority of the games that Conviction Esports has played out throughout Split 2. It is one of TF Blade's signature champions. If he is able to have a pop-off game here, it will give Conviction Esports a great way to start the momentum here in the Grand Finals.
And look, I thought that Garen in the last game yesterday against Blue Otter was really big in just deciding that game 4 as Conviction were able to really end up winning that one in the end, Rafa, right? Because that was a pretty back-and-forth game against Blue Otter and really needed some heroics from TF Blade on the carry Garen there to make some things happen. So we'll see Jax, a little bit more skill expression and a little bit more power to the player in that one. Let's see if TF Blade, a champion he's always proved that he has prowess on, can show up in this one. As we do see, junglers, looks like we have a mirrored clear early on with both Perry and Tomio working their way on opposite sides of the map. Again, guys, this is kind of fun. We both these junglers have been in the finals before. Perry lost his finals that he made as he was a substitute when River got traded from Dignitas over to Golden Guardians. It's some LCS history back in 2021. Perry stepped into Dignitas, made finals with Insanity on that team. Perry, of course, retired, opted to go streaming coaching angle. Finds his way back here, has played, I think, quite well, but for me, Tomio going to be in an advantageous spot given the play we've seen from both of these junglers so far in playoffs.
I mean, the more interesting caveat to that was the fact that Exy was called up to the main roster for Dignitas because of the absence of River, and so therefore Perry had to step in for the team towards the second half of the split in the year. Now, in this year, Perry has been able to demonstrate a lot more creativity while being able to balance out both a streamer and a content creator career, also competing with the very best that Tier 2 has to offer. Luminosity Gaming obviously going to be a tougher challenge, and especially Tomio, who has probably been our most consistent and highest performing jungler here in Split 2, being able to demonstrate that even though his debut in LTA wasn't as promised as it was supposed to be with Shopify Rebellion, he still has what it takes to have another shot against this guys.
Again, this crew really likes playing together as a core. They've been very public about that. Even seeing just Tactical kind of join this team of familiar faces with, I've seen Sanity has some familiarity in the past, but it's been nice to see Tactical just, Eddie step in and just be so honest about the team environment. Be like, yeah, I've learned a lot about being in this team just because of how the team interacts with each other, how we can work as a team together. A lot of experience between these guys, and it's been cool to see them incorporate both Deos and Tactical into that.
Yeah, and guys, we've been taking our time of doing a little bit of history and storytelling because so far, nothing out of the ordinary has really happened in this early game state so far. There's been a pretty sizable CS advantage for Tactical and Zazel in the bottom side of the map, but so far, everything else, Matt, I imagine, has played out to what we expected it to be. Now, one of the things we do want to call attention to is Tomio, the fact that he's playing Pantheon. This champion is not nearly as strong as it used to be in prior patches, and you really do want to get an early snowball rolling because otherwise, I would rather take the Wukong the later the game goes on.
Yeah, I mean, that's, again, is the story of the two comps, right? Jax, Orianna, Wukong, post 20-25 minutes, depending on where they're at. I want those champions on my team. Beforehand, though, I want the Galio, as Insanity finds a walk, finds a kill. That's a freebie for the mid laner of Luminosity Gaming.
Insanity able to find a window where he's able to roam from the mid wave. I don't even know how much he gave up for that play, but he knew it was for the greater benefit of Luminosity Gaming to get that snowball rolling. It's exactly what we talked about in the draft, and so far, Luminosity Gaming's mid laner makes the first play.
And that opens up a very big CS gap in the bot lane. As you're going to see, we go back. Yeah, 29 to 53. Viper going to be stuck on double scaling items, and Viper, definitely a marksman that plays a little bit more like a top laner. He loves to step up, step in, definitely has the hands to back it up, but if you don't have the economy to back it up, you can't really play that way. So, going to be Ezreal on the back foot, and frankly, given the draft, the rest of the top side from Conviction too. So I want to see what Luminosity Gaming can take from here. I think their entire top side is very winning and important for them to try and lock up these first two dragons and the grubs, quite frankly, because given where the game is at right now, I expect them to get the vast majority of all the above. So let's see if they can execute.
Luminosity Gaming have had priority in this bottom lane, so I agree with you. Dragons should be easily rippable on the side of the defending NACL champions here. But Tomio has not found a window where he wants to go for it quite yet.
They're going to prioritize grubs. Yeah.
We are now a minute away from grubs, so at this point, I think LG should just continue farming, try to play for level 6s as fast as possible, get as much gold in your inventory through subcomponents. I don't think anyone's going to be able to reach first items quite yet, since it's just only one kill on the board, but that will put Luminosity Gaming in the best position possible to ward off Conviction Esports for the grubs.
I think some of the evolution of grubs too. Like you look at Luminosity Gaming's account, I'm pretty honest about how we feel like it's stronger early on. So it's like, okay, like historic League of Legends, let's get early dragons, right? Make sure we can threaten Soul, match with scaling, just Soul's a powerful win con. But also with the globals that Luminosity Gaming has, if they do get 2 or 3 grubs, their ability to find a power play, turn that into plates, into first brick, into feats, that different way of scaling is big. Is the first semi-global going to be cast top lane.
Tomio hits level 6 and instantly makes a trip to top lane. TF Blade not going to even burn flash on that one because he knew he was dead to rights.
And that will be grubs too. So far, Conviction, and I really feel like this team surprised a lot of people in NACL because, again, all the names are streamers. You don't really expect this to be a cohesive unit. They have been a cohesive unit. That is how they made it to the grand finals. They have beaten teams in NACL that play well as 5 because Conviction as a team has played pretty well as 5. But this one, they are getting outplayed as 5. There's not much they can do on the map given the champs they have, but we have seen 2 extremely easy kills be picked up by Luminosity Gaming so far, as they look pretty undeterred and unchallenged. We'll end up in a grub for dragon swap, but now Luminosity Gaming with those semi-globals, we'll see how many plates, how quickly they can try and knock down that first brick and blow this gold lead up now that they have the grub secured.
For what it's worth, Conviction Esports has proved to be one of the rosters throughout this second split of this NACL 2025 season that understands when to not go for and contest objectives that are clearly losing and just go for the cross-map trade. I think they can be one of the smarter macro teams that we have in the league for this year. Now, unfortunately, if you lose too much gold, which is what happened against Luminosity Gaming last time, then even when they're making cross-map trades, they're still on the losing end of the deal, and they're not able to reap the benefits of it on the fights that matters most, considering that's usually around the 3rd dragon spawn, or by the time we get to Otter. Conviction Esports, not out of the woods yet, but they are now down 2,000 gold early on against Luminosity.
Yeah, I mean, the only saving grace I can think of early on here for Conviction is just the fact that the first 2 deaths, they were so quick, it's not like they burned a flash along with it. Because there's a world where Luminosity Gaming could really look for a swap, and then they could turn a 2v1 into a 4v1 in first brick very quickly with grub diff and, of course, numbers diff, as we do have a potential dive in the fake god. First play from Conviction. Here goes Perry, but the answer?
Cyclone on top of it, but here comes Insanity with the heroic entrance. Flash taunt doesn't find him in the end, but the fact that he was able to answer and save Fake God from going down is the pro diff that they needed to make here for Luminosity Gaming. As now he's going to continue the chase here. Perry stayed a little too long. He already burned the flash, but he just did not expect Insanity to continue following up and disrespected his ability to be there.
No clone, no flash, and no hope. As guys, Luminosity Gaming, the X-Pros, find the pro diff in that play. ProDiff.gg, our sponsor for the entire split of NACL, part of split 1-2. Thanks to ProDiff.gg for being with us for the year. Scan that QR code at home to get one-on-one coaching from the pros and pros only on ProDiff.gg.
This is now 3 kills over to Luminosity Gaming. Tell me you're already using the movement speed boost from the Empowered E that forces Evolve to flash. This is Luminosity Gaming now firing on all cylinders and using the power of the composition to full effect so far.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of this has been playing through Insanity. Insanity has been a part of everything so far, and yes, there's a CS deficit for the Galio, but who cares? Look at the map, look at the overall gold lead. If you're telling me that Galio is sacrificing that to get this far ahead as a team, that sounds like the perfect Galio game to me, as Insanity has been involved in every skirmish, and is frankly the one that is dictating the pace of this game for his team. So we do have Grand Starfall now off cooldown. TF Boy did burn that flash, and Zazel, well, that's not exactly a solid snake sneak right there. But,
No,
yeah.
That minion looked a little too suspicious, but he is here nonetheless on the top side. Tomio already taking some time to set up parry and take a decent chunk of his health bar
That's
there.
stunt.
Teleport coming in from stunt just to be able to make sure that he can answer, but he gets pulled in by the Infernal Chains and loses more than 50% of his HP.
And I gotta say, this game, I didn't love the Rakan pick. I think it's really hard to play Rakan into Galio, Nico, just these circles, and you're pretty squishy. I mean, if you get stymied, it's hard.
Stun has the quickness, turns it on, but
stymied.
Zazel just bursts him out before he has a chance to be able to really set up anything meaningful for Conviction Esports here to protect themselves from the dive. At least TF Blade and Perry are able to walk out, but now this is a lot of plates going over to the hands of Luminosity.
Yeah, this, and like, look at the response from Conviction. It's not like they're playing an extra lane for this, given that Luminosity Gaming did overload. They're dropping bot to try and make this happen, try and find anything. So Conviction sacrificing a ton. They're down 4K gold right now because of it, as they can't even deter Luminosity Gaming from pushing into the turret here. As LG, they had a much stronger early game composition, and they're looking like the buzzsaw that we've seen for the duration of playoffs, and that is Luminosity Gaming at their best.
This is a monstrous gold advantage, and the fact that they haven't even taken out a full turret yet just spells almost imminent doom here for Conviction Esports. We know that their composition does get better the later the game goes on, but you need to be able to stabilize. You can't be this far behind by the time you get to those item spikes, because when these Trinity forces come on for Perry and TF Blade, we might be staring down the barrel of 2 items coming in from Tomio and Insanity, or even Fake God, and that is not a position you want to be in.
I mean, look, that lead you see on the gold graph, you can already see in the inventory. It is first items being completed for 4 out of the 5 members of Luminosity Gaming, as TF Blade gonna have to phase rush and try and leap strike his way out of here. Should do so successfully. But yeah, the first items are not in yet for Conviction. They have 2 Trinity forces they're still waiting on. And yeah, I think this dragon is just gonna go to the wayside of Luminosity Gaming.
Should be the case here. Fake God is alone on the top side. Perry might try and just go for a quick play, but because there's a control ward, he cannot spring the trap without Fake God being able to safely walk away. He is 2 levels above Perry, so he would need the full commit from TF Blade's Jax to make it happen. And while this would be signature and characteristic of Conviction Esports to give up an objective on the cross map, try to force something on the top side, Fake God is going to have the help of Tactical with the killer instinct to bail him out, and now Perry has to turn tail and run. Evolved is there for a shockwave. Maybe it's enough. It does get Tactical to fall, but now Insanity arrives with the heroic entrance. Here comes the Grand Starfall, the power of that global composition, and Perry, unfortunately, is on the wrong side of the map, tries to dash away, but gets picked off by Zazel's Nico, who is able to collapse just in time.
We'll give Conviction some credit. I actually think that's a decent play, and I'm not exactly sure why Luminosity Gaming did burn both their semi-globals to look for that play. I say that, now Evolve's going to go down, so now the semi-globals are worth it. Yeah, that's a Orianna down. That hurts. As first brick goes over, I did like that attempt from Conviction. And you know they're on Dragon. Play topside, see what happens. They got a lot of tools out of Luminosity Gaming from that, but still lost the Dragon, still lost the race for first brick, so couldn't get anything real. I think the skirmish 1-for-1, if they get out of that, it's actually okay. It was a good stall from Evolved and the right idea, but yeah, this gold lead, you're already feeling it on the Rift, and Conviction miles behind.
It's almost ballooned to 6,000 at this point.
Yeah.
And I can't even fault Conviction for some of it, because when they made that cross-map play, it is something that we have come to expect from them over the course of the regular season and playoffs. And then Luminosity Gaming started answering and doubling down one member after another. And it almost seemed like Conviction Esports were just unsure of, wait, are Luminosity Gaming actually trying to respond to us here? I guess we have to back off, but no way they continue pursuing. Oh my god, they're actually pursuing us. Okay, well, shoot. Luminosity Gaming are that thirsty for us, and for a team like Luminosity Gaming, they're just going to show that they are not afraid to continue pushing down the acceleration pedal for this game.
I mean, they have to, and again, there's just nothing stopping them right now. Conviction, at least they have a redemption. Nico won't be building that, can try and use that to try and get some more effective health and stay alive, but the onslaught continues as Insanity was spotted by Stunt, important there. If not, could have pressured Viper off this wave, but can't pressure him off the turret. As Stunt burns the quickness, Insanity loses most of his health, but he can base TP back to wherever he wants, and I think the siege just might continue.
Insanity effectively trades his health bar for a ultimate spell from Stunt's Recon there.
And almost mid.
Almost getting mid-turret in the process too. So definitely hashtag worth in the chat. As
bot.
you called it, Insanity can easily just TP bot. TF Blade is able to pick up the first turret for Conviction Esports here, but now he has to deal with a 1v2 between Tomio and Insanity. And for TF Blade, I don't see a world where he's able to get out. Maybe he can pick up some minions for his trouble here, trying to use the Counter-Strike to at least stall out the death as long as possible. But Luminosity Gaming, they are in full control of this game.
Yeah, easily turn that into mid too, as that pressure from Sanity mid pans out in the turret a couple waves later. And there is no slowing down LG. I mean, realistic world for Conviction, I guess we haven't really hit on their win con outside of scaling for this. For me, I think Nico and Kaisa, like, you can try and look to pick those two members, but everyone else is kind of hard to find picks on. If you're going to look to, like, make plays to come back, I mean, Galio can be quite slippery with the phase rush, not to mention tanky, and the Justice Punch can buffer a lot.
Yep.
Aatrox as well can pop the ult and get on out of there. And Pantheon's gettable, but at least has an invulnerable window to buy some time. And in that time, you could at least have a heroic entrance that could likely come down, give the range of Galio ult too. So I think it's tough. Like, I don't really see the angles for Conviction to play out outside of catch waves to the best of their abilities and stall. And if LG do pull the trigger on one side of the map, get what you can on the other, but I feel like just being down the double semi-globals, you're playing on the back foot for the duration of this game. And it only gets scarier with outer turrets falling.
And with big objectives like the second or the third dragon of the game coming up in just a minute, then Otter in under 2 minutes, it's not necessarily dooming for Conviction Esports if they lose out on those objectives, but it just objectively gets that much harder because already they are facing an experience deficit in multiple roles here. Otter is just going to add even further salt into the wound there. And for Luminosity Gaming, we talked about it before. This composition, if it was an even state for Conviction Esports, they're fine later the game goes on. But when you are dealing with something like a Pantheon who is way ahead of the curve, this champion is unkillable. And now he's going to continue extending his advantage. Grand Starfall on the top side. TF Blade already gets the hell out of there, not wanting to tango with Fakeon and Tomio.
You know what? It was a grand save fall as he gets Fakeon out of there. Make sure that the Dark and Aatrox can spread its wings and get on out, as Viper might be under threat. Does burn Arcane Shift. I thought Insanity might go for a look there. That could be the case, as things have slowed down just a wee bit. But with the Dragon spawning for Luminosity Gaming, I think that's why. They just got their waves right. Going to be able to take this one. And yeah, Conviction just going to answer on the top side of the best of their abilities. That's an objective bounty being secured, so well played from them. But speaks to how one side of the game is, given that that is really the only choice they can make. I think any choice to play for this Dragon would have been quicken their demise. Safe to say so.
No. The fact that Luminosity Gaming are not on the third Dragon is at least the consolation prize for Conviction Esports. They're going to make a jump play onto Fake God. Just try and make the cross maps happen when you know that Luminosity Gaming cannot respond. But just as I say that, heroic entrance and the Pop Blossom turns it around, makes it a 2-for-1 in favor of Luminosity Gaming, potentially more if Stun is not able to escape. But he's got enough movement speed from the quickness. He gets away. Now Evolved I don't think he's going to be so lucky here. Flash taunt from Insanity guarantees that Evolved is going down in the river. And with the Otacon just barely spawning, that's a free objective for Luminosity Gaming.
Yeah, right on time, right up tempo. That play attempt on the Fake God, I didn't mind it, but Zazel being able to get involved brought the damage, and Insanity on the Galio brought the tankiness and the lockdown, and a lot of damage himself, as Luminosity Gaming going to take Otacon. That's another step, frankly, towards closing this game out, because I think Conviction, I mean, I would say their time's up, but they really never got to the time of the game they want to be at. I think 3 items is where they can start to be competitive, but they're already pretty much down a full item across the board in inventories outside of jungle.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if the ambulance I heard in the back of Cubby's microphone was for Conviction Esports.
That was yours!
That was mine? Oh,
yes!
Shoot.
I'm ratting you out!
Okay, well, either way.
You know what? Must be some
are...
nice custom earpieces that you have in, Rafa. You know, you couldn't tell if it was actually from me or from, you know, from behind you. It's, you should maybe get their brand in touch with our brand for next year.
Sure.
You know?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe I made the assumption.
You just locked in.
Oh, my bad. My bad. Well,
then again, you lived in LA. It's a safe assumption out here, but, you know, the suburbs have problems too.
I know the area where we were.
Yeah.
It was a fun time.
A little busier.
Not the safest time. Anyway.
No, it's fine. There's a fire station 4 blocks away. They're very nice over there. So, you know, they're always lounging out.
But you met them?
Yeah. They lounge in the summer.
Oh.
Yeah.
You did a lot more than I did. Anyway, regarding for this game 1 of this grand finals, as we took a side tangent there, almost sounded like an LCK broadcast. Luminosity Gaming being able to continue this snowball is something that does make us very excited for their chances of being competitive in the LTA promotion tournament, because when you get compositions like this, you have to be aggressive and you need to be clean with the execution of making sure that you are not dropping the ball. And so far, it has been a very masterful demonstration.
Look, if it wasn't for, I think, how Disguise looked on their way out of LTA North Conference playoffs, I think that we would have had Luminosity Gaming as just the heavy favorites in the promotion tournament. Just given the pedigree and the level of play we've seen from these guys in the playoffs. Like, frankly, the fact that Disguise, we haven't seen them play in a month, and they were putting up decent gameplay on the Rift before they exited, is the thing that's making the promotion tournament interesting for me. Because if it wasn't for that, I think that Istral and LG would be the 2 heavy favorites, just given the pedigree on these rosters and the form that I know Luminosity Gaming specifically has been in, as their form has been very good. So, yeah, we'll see if things change as we dive in. Of course, for those that did miss the top of the show, both these teams will be in the LTA North promotion tournament, but seeding does matter. The 1 seed is seeded into the double elimination bracket, whereas the 2 seed faces the 2 seed from the LRN region, so the Tier 2 Latin American region, the North. That team is already locked in, actually. As that is Astral. That's the team with Summit, Ghost, Solid Snake, Cody, and Winsome. All names that you probably recognize at home. So not a team that you want to face in a play-in, do-or-die, best-of-5 matchup. You'd much rather be seated into that double elimination bracket. So really heavy stakes on top of the prize pool, and the winnings, of course, from that with everything today. Yeah.
And the fact that Estral Esports ended up being the number 2 seed makes me even more excited to see the number 1 seed, who is the STM Tigres, get a chance to play on that big stage. As
yeah, they've been a surprise. 5 players that haven't played pro. I recognize only Johnny from the World's Champ Q, or like Champ Q out here, as Johnny was a grinder. Always played a lot top lane, so always respected the players that grinded that. I tried to grind out the coast trains a little bit myself to the best I could do. Rafa's seen me play. My hands are not to the likes of these guys, but
yeah,
that and a lot of other things. The brain's not.
There's a reason why we're not the ones playing on some of these.
As always, a lot of reasons. Yeah. It all started when I was born. No. All right, 13 seconds away from this dragon.
I'm gonna pull out a certain soundboard on you if you.
Oh no, we need to at least wait for Kiana for that one. So let's dive into this mountain dragon. Gonna be soul point secured.
Tomio did pull out Kiana the last time these 2 teams faced off, so we just might get a repeat visit of that champion later on in this Fearless Best of 5. But as you called out, because Luminosity Gaming have full control of the map here, they are taking their due diligence in taking every single objective on the board. They are now 3 dragons in, 1 dragon away from claiming Soul Point. and Conviction Esports trying to set up a death brush here on the top side river as Tactical at
It is
least
a good
spots
angle.
out the making of the death brush with the Void Seeker. Tomio jumps on to TF Blade.
Oh, it's good.
Stunt, and Perry tries to look for the engage, but the counter engage is greater
Ooh, it's
from
not good.
Zazel and Insanity. Good night, Stun and Perry. It was a good attempt, but unfortunately it's just not good enough when you're down nearly 7,000 gold at 25 minutes, and Luminosity Gaming continuing to wipe the floor with Conviction Esports.
No, if it wasn't a Nico plus a Galio, maybe it would have been good. As TF Boy gonna flash to try and secure the kill on the Zazel. Eats the barbs and isn't able to do so. They at least found Tactical early on, right? Like, they removed the marksman. That's why I thought it was good, because I'm looking at the items. I mean, Kai'Sa is your late game DPS insurance. If you get Kai'Sa out of the fight, it's a maybe, but they were too close to the turret. They ate the Pop Blossom into the heroic entrance combo. Way too much damage given the lead that Luminosity Gaming has. And Conviction, I mean, it's a tough game state for them. It's really hard to find the right time to pull the trigger. I think they saw their 2 item finishes and just went from there. Did mention earlier that we thought 3 items would be maybe where they're able to close the gap. But that's kind of hard to wait till then. So they lose the fight, and I think they're about to lose the game here. Rafa is Luminosity Gaming looking to put away a clean one.
They are just short of a 10,000 gold advantage, which is usually the point of no return for most enemy opponents that are experiencing that deficit. So Luminosity Gaming, given the momentum that they've had all game long, should just be one more good fight away of being able to close out the first game of the series and going up 1-0 in this final best of 5 split.
They're gonna look clinical. As Conviction gonna have to go back to the drawing board. I think biggest takeaway for me is Conviction, just not enough early game.
Perry just sending it on to VakeGod. They know that once again that he is isolated from the rest of the
Oh
team,
my
but
God.
VakeGod is too tanky. He hasn't even popped the Steric's Gauge yet. He's just healing from the World Ender, and Zazel sets them all up to get dunked by VakeGod himself. Luminosity Gaming eliminate 3 from the map, and that should be enough to push in for Game 1 victory.
Well, I think Conviction, biggest takeaway for me, they got to take a little bit more early game. They just got blown out of the water by Luminosity Gaming. They got the late or early game tools for themselves, made the early game plays for themselves, and dominated Game 1.
Luminosity starts off our grand finals of NACL Split 2 with a bang, going up 1-0 in the series.
I mean, it was a bang from LG. Again, I think the only thing that made it feel like a bit of a dud for me is just how one-sided that game was. I mean, we were looking at a 4K gold lead early on. I think that when Conviction tried to defend that first brick from falling top, that top outer, I felt like the game was over after that sequence. They sacked so much gold across the map to try and defend. They really get no true gain off the map, and from there, they were already behind and playing from further behind. And the couple plays we did see them make, even if the angles opened up, looked okay, they were just too far behind in the game to even really have a chance. So Conviction going to go down Game 1 to the domination of Luminosity Gaming that continue to not just win in these NACL playoffs, but win in dominating fashion.
And for the champions that were locked in for Conviction Esports, these are a lot of comfort picks already gone in this Fearless Best of 5. So Conviction Esports are going to have to dig deep if they want to pull off any game victories for themselves to stop the momentum of Luminosity Gaming here. But, of course, we're going to find out right after this break. Finally has it, Zyko using the Pop Blossom just to stall the fight, but Tomio and VakeGod fall over with their own flashes as they get the decimating smash.
Hey everyone, I'm Tomio, jungler for Luminosity, and I'm here to break down the early macro sequence that gave us a big lead going into the mid game against Darkseer Dragonsteel from Week 2, Day 2 of the NACL in this Pro Div Deep Dive. Starting off, we have a numbers advantage on the top side of the map, and we show as if we're looking to make a play on the top lane outer turret. Our vision line in DZ's topside jungle lets us know that Kizno isn't on the top part of the map, so Kaze and Bessa is forced to use teleport from bot lane in order to defend the play. Since we know that Kizno's Inzao is on the top side, his natural response to a top lane play from us is to use Rift Herald mid. Since we're not actually planning on committing to a fight top lane, I shadow mid lane and wait for Kizno to use the Rift Herald. I'm able to position perfectly to flank Kizno and Sajed, who probably expected me to be further towards top with the rest of my team. I'm able to land all my CC on Kizno and we get the kill on him as well as the Rift Herald. This is a big swing for us since we deny DZ the tower, gold, and get a kill and defeats of warfare for ourselves. DZ at this point is feeling pretty pressured to respond with a play of their own, and since now have more members on the top side, they try to kill 5 minis Azir. He puts up the Sun Disc, which makes it a lot harder for DZ to kill him, and gives Fake God San a great teleport. Toasty's Talia uses the Weaver's Wall to try to block off Azir and hit him with her full combo, but a great shifting sense lets him dodge the seismic shove and avoid all of Talia's damage here. Azir can kill the whole wave here, and once Mbessa misses her ultimate, DZ is in an even worse spot. We know we have a numbers advantage and DZ overextended trying to kill Azir, so we rush back top to try to pick them off as they're retreating. Zazel Braum is a great flash here to ensure he lands his CC on Talia and Nico. I'm able to catch up and twist an advance onto Nico, who has a good pop blossom to save this from being even worse for DZ. But we're able to get a kill on Talia and force the flashes out of all 3 DZ members here, and then go back to take the top lane outer tower. At the start of this play, it's an even game where DZ has a potential tempo swing by using Rift Herald. By the end, we've negated their Rift Herald and swung the gold lead by 2k in our favor, putting us in a commanding position to dictate the rest of the game and eventually take the win. Thanks for watching. You can check out one-on-one coaching from me and other NACL pros at prodiff.gg. To stay up to date on everything NACL, follow Watch NACL on Twitter and make sure to catch the games on NACL's Twitch or YouTube. We'll see you next time.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are getting ready for game number 2 of our grand finals for NACL Split 2. Game 1 was an absolute destruction of a match by Luminosity Gaming against Conviction Esports. As soon as they got a massive gold advantage by the 9-minute mark, Cubby, it was no looking back for Luminosity.
Yeah, the clips that you're seeing here, I think it was already about a 6, 7 to 8k gold lead as Otacon spawned. It was 4k gold lead before 14 minutes before plates dropped. And yeah, I mean, the draft, Luminosity Gaming, they did take a lot of early game. That is an Aatrox, Pantheon, Galio topside. It is about rotations and what kind of lead you can get and what you can do with it. And that has been what has made Luminosity Gaming by far our strongest team in playoffs, is their ability to build up leads, continue to snowball them, and not make mistakes along the way, something that a lot of our NACL teams have struggled with.
And while Luminosity Gaming had great ways to initiate fights and be proactive on the map with their globals and being able to respond with reactive plays as well whenever Conviction would try and go for the cross-map trades, I really want to give a big shout out to Zazel, because there is a lot of times where he was already on the ball knowing that Fake God was going to be susceptible to a cross-map play and found his way there before even Insanity got in range for a heroic entrance to follow up afterwards. So it just goes to show that Luminosity were so in the pocket and so ahead of the play that they were even in Conviction Esports' head on where they wanted to go next.
That damage from Zazel is pretty disgusting from a support. I think it really speaks to his ability to rotate around the map. Damage from Fake God probably all came in the last fight there, where he was able to 1v3 and came out on top. Man, Zazel leading, like being second most damage, having more damage than anyone on Conviction's side, that is, I think what really makes Nico such a strong and sometimes oppressive champion when you do get going. And that game was played very, very, very well from Zazel and the rest of Luminosity Gaming. So Conviction, look, lesson for me from that, if I'm going back into the team after that game 1, look, I think they drafted a losing jungle matchup and 3 losing lanes, and Luminosity Gaming torched them for it. So for me, Conviction needs to find a point of power. I think that, again, their comp, if it gets to the 20-25 minute mark, they can be happy. Like, I like the Jackson Aatrox matchup. I think that's fine. But it just never was able to get going because Galio pretty much warped both the side lanes early on, and Luminosity Gaming just took off from there. So I think Conviction need at least 1 winning lane. I'm fine with them playing scaling, but they can't sign up for 3 losing lanes and losing jungle.
if you are a Conviction Esports fan, the cope from this game 1 is that you can say that your team was doing a litmus test on how locked in Luminosity Gaming were going to be coming into Grand Finals, and say, you know what, let's just give them a bunch of early game champions and we'll see if we can be better than that. Okay, you know what, guys, they blasted us. They got the better end of us. It's okay. Now we get blue side. A lot of the comfort picks, a lot of the OP picks are now gone for the rest of the series. This is now our chance to try and turn around the momentum for this series. But here we go. Draft for game number 2 is on screen, and this time we'll be able to take our time with it.
Yeah, and I gotta see, of course, we have Conviction now on the blue side, they have Conviction on red, so curious to see what bans change. Last game on red side, Azir, Maokai, and Rumble were all taken away by Conviction on red side. Obviously, when you go to blue, you get to not only open up some of those bans for yourself, or like champs like Azir, we just expect to stay banned on red for the entirety of the duration of this, but also you can change up some of your own bans to determine what you open with. So curious to see what champ Conviction wants to open with. I will say, if Maokai is available, that pick's been really big for Tomio, and I think would be worth as a deny early on, because if Maokai is up for Luminosity Gaming, they will lock that in 1-2 on red side.
It's so strange to see Luminosity Gaming being able to excel with that in a world where Xin, Trundle are running around rampant as some of our best skirmishers in the game. Obviously, you just saw Masterclass on Pantheon when he is able to get ahead as well. But it's because Luminosity Gaming understand how to optimize Maokai's strengths, objective control with those samplings, and being able to soft look for engages with that Nature's Grasp as well. And the fact that you get to kind of play both roles as either engage or just being able to pick for targets there and do some decent damage, because we see when Maokai's go for that AP hybrid build, Tomio can carry, even though he might be on more of a frontline role with that champion.
That champ's up, so we're gonna have to see if they want to grab it, as I think it's going to be, again, I expect Luminosity Gaming to snag this 1-2. I think a big part of it is, again, once you get a lead as Maokai, the game gets so oppressive, and Conviction going to lock that one in for themselves, as Perry will take it, will be a deny away. Again, we expect this to be in the jungle. Maokai does have some flexibility, but not really, given the strength that he has out of the jungle. So yeah, I don't need to get on my Maokai soapbox. This champion's just so OP. Like, whenever you level up, you get to put a point and an ability. It feels so good as Maokai, because all 3 of his abilities are just, it feels like you get so much from putting points in them. Like, this champion is so OP. So yeah, Lucian Milio going to be the answer.
Yeah. I mean, if you want a way to answer an AoE route, just slam that Milio ultimate, and that's your get out of jail free card there for Luminosity Gaming. Also setting up a very, very potent bot lane that can get aggressive and in the face of Viper and Stun. And when you think about how game 1 kind of went awry, you already knew that Tactical had a decent CS advantage against Viper, and then Insanity further opening up just made sure that Tactical kind of had the entire world at his fingertips. So now Conviction are going to go with a little bit more safety and get some of that sustain locked in for Senna. I will say, Matt, I know that we're expecting Maokai to be in the jungle, but Senna Maokai is a decent pairing.
You get rocked by Lucian, so I'm going to still expect it to be in the jungle. I will say, though, the Nautilus ban makes a bit more sense to me in hindsight, because you'd really love to have Senna Nautilus into Milio Lucian. The depth charge does matter a lot, because you can't get out of that with Milio's ult. So the fact that they're going to have to still look for a pairing, that's going to be nice for Luminosity Gaming. Like, they could throw bans at it if they want to continue to protect that, or if they don't think it's going to be Maokai support. The Ambessa top 4 TF played. The Renekton ban, again, kind of setting up for that. So that gets picked up. Curious what ends up being played into Ambessa, though, because with the Sejuani, you can really warp some of those topside matchups with the Permafrost stack. So curious if Luminosity Gaming and Fake God want to take something that can play into Ambessa successfully like that, or it could be a game that sets up for Kazante. Oh, wait, this is Stunt Senna. This is actually flexible with Stunt, too, especially if they're going to play in the Milio. So this could be, it could be Viper Jin or something like that later on. We'll have to see.
Now, one of the cool things that Conviction Esports have done in the past with Senna is that they've been able to flex TF Play towards the bottom side of the map and have him lane with Stunt Senna. That was with the Rumble and Riven setup. Unfortunately for Conviction Esports, both of the champions have been banned in this second game. Very well aware, they've done their homework. especially when they saw that whipped out in their series against Blue Otter just yesterday. So now, Conviction Esports going to have to dig to something different. That could still be a marksman for Viper, or if Viper feels confident, maybe he'll go to another mobile booster in his hands.
A little surprised we actually saw Talia slip the draft like that. I mean, I think that a lot of Insanity's pool is actually pretty good into Talia. I mean, Insanity can play anything in the mid lane, but that has been a really big pick for Evolved and Conviction throughout, so just kind of surprised to see that slip through. Not surprised to see it banned now in the second phase. They don't want to face that. Makes sense to me. Talia would make life a lot harder, and Bessa early on, and does provide a lot of push to already support some of the side lanes we see. So with Talia and Aurora being taken away, curious if we honestly just have like a blind Annie from Insanity. I think that having something that provides Lucian Milio with some stability, having that second engage tool could be nice, but if you don't want to blind a mid, you can always just go for the counter, as it's going to be Yorick going into that Ambessa. And yeah, Yorick, not the fastest stacking the Permafrost passive with Sejuani, but that can help.
For Conviction Esports, I think it's or Luminosity is a good call to wait it out, because when you look at the two mid laners that Conviction Esports banned away from Luminosity Gaming, something tells me Evolved wants to go towards something that is a little bit, okay, that's not exactly what I had in mind, but you know what? That's totally fine. Yone and Mbessa, two
Will this be
80
played
melee
bot?
solo laners.
Hold on.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Let's see where they want to put everything. I know Shogo has really been on the Yone bot train, and it actually is really playable in the Milio. There are, like, your ability to actually kind of helpfully pressure that early on. As, okay, it's not going to be the case if it ends up being the Karma plus the Senna. Okay. Well, they're going to get that creative early on, Rafa. But, of course, with TF Blade and Viper and Conviction, always have to be steady, always have to be cautious. This could have been a Senna for Stunt, too, as he's very good on that pick and solo queue. It's been banned away from Conviction a lot, given that.
With Conviction Esports, you really don't know until it's past the 20-second mark on the final lock-in. But Luminosity are putting their faith into Insanity to pull out his first Mel Medarda of the split. We know that Samikin has been a big enthusiast of the champion and has been able to pull out some insane performances. When you're looking at things that you can reflect, I think the biggest thing is going to be one of those strands of the Maokai ultimate, maybe a mantra Q from the Karma. I don't think you can reflect Fate Sealed, because that doesn't seem like a projectile to me.
No, it's gonna be the Maokai ult. This is so Mal value. I talked to Samek and Blue Water a lot about this, and now that sadly they're out, I can talk more about Mel, because they know that pick really well. There are two conditions for Mel. One is, like, when you're looking just conditions of where I'm going to draft Mel, right? It's W and E value. So of course the W is the reflect. What can I send back? Or I'm invulnerable in that time. Like, does that get me out of any big combos, right? Where I can live? And then the E, the root. And that's really, I think, the part that people have been sleeping on when it comes to Mel, but where a lot of her strength is right now. Because that E, it's just a giant ball. And if you are a short-range, melee-heavy comp, like the top side of Conviction is, and you can help buy or create any sort of space for something like a Lucian or a Yorick, I mean, this is a way to kind of find a supportive mid, a lot of push early on, and that root and W just to protect from pretty singular engage tool on that Maokai, because the ideal fight, it's like Nature's Grasp then into Public Execution and Fate Sealed, which Mel W, it can send back that Tendril, right? And it doesn't get max value against the other two, but still, you can prevent, like, the optimal fight. There's a lot of defense against Maokai here, so a pick that Luminosity Gaming does understand really well themselves. Interesting to see what they took into it between the Lucian Milio and that R being very dedicated to getting out of Nature's Grasp, and the Mel W on top of that.
I'm just saying, if Luminosity Gaming have control of a choke point and Conviction Esports try to walk as a 5-man unit through there, you throw that Solar Snare, oh man, that is a recipe for disaster on Conviction Esports side. Yeah, hashtag good luck. But for us, that is, the draft locked in for both of these teams. It's time to hear from you guys in chat. Who is going to take this game? Number 2 is going to be hashtag CNV for Conviction Esports or hashtag LG for Luminosity Gaming. And I know that Conviction Esports have been a fan favorite ever since they came into the league. They have the streamer audience, they have the content creator personality behind them. So obviously, They have had a lot of support coming out from their own individual communities as well as a, entity as a whole trying to support them. And they've made a very, very considerable run here. And it's really awesome to see that they're going to have a chance to at least participate in the LTA promotion tournament. But now, can Conviction Esports rally in this series to turn the momentum around and stop Luminosity Gaming from running away with this best of 5?
Yeah, I think that for Conviction, this has been such a fun story. Again, like when this roster came together, a lot of people were looking at it like, oh, this is Near Airport Light, right? Given that it was TF Wade and other streamers. And of course, with how public Near Airport was, it was like, are these guys going to go as hard? Like, can they give it their all? I think that Near Airport left a sour taste in some fans' mouth, just given that, they played for a split and left. Yeah, I think the Conviction has really proved everyone wrong. I mean, these guys are here to play and compete at the highest level they can. And yeah, I mean, they are streaming. Like, they have other priorities that still involve the game. Like, that, I think that's a big difference whether NACL is changed, right? Like, we have Aaron taking a break and being very public about, hey, I'm working a part-time job and doing this. Like, that's my life. Like, I have to do this to support myself, right? Well, the fact that, the other part of your job can be the game still, that actually in, the day and age of NACL we have now actually kind of gives you an edge. So I think that these players have used it really well, and it made the league fun. And like for me, I know that we've really highly lauded Hoarder, and he won Rookie of the Split or of the Year and Most Valuable Prospect. But I think TF Wade has been right there with him when it comes to top lanes and what he's done his rookie year too. He's been very impressive this year. He's even step up in this game.
We're going to see how it all unfolds here. Conviction Esports against Luminosity Gaming for our second game of our grand finals. Let's hit Summoner's Rift.
All right, Rafa. I know that we kind of dove in, said that Conviction needs to take a little bit more early game. I don't know if they have a lot of it. I feel like Ambessa is going to be the most okay lane matchup early on. But they're still going to be behind, I think, a little bit when it comes to the early lane. I'm a little bit scared for them about this mid game going up against the Mel, Sejuani, and Lucian Milio.
Yeah, Conviction Esports, when we looked at the composition that led to their demise in Game 1 that Luminosity Gaming piloted, it was a massive early game differential. Now, for Luminosity Gaming this time around, not saying that they have another full-on early game composition, but they have a lot of laning power with this Lucian Milio. Thankfully for Conviction Esports, they have a lot of sustain now backed up between the Karma and the Senna. Will it be enough, though? That is the question here. And considering how Conviction Esports was not able to bail out Viper and Stunned as much as they needed to, nor for TF Blade on the top lane, I think we're going to have to see if Perry and Evolved can step up and try and find ways where the advantages that they find in their own roles can be translated into supporting and protecting those side lanes in the early stages of the game.
I mean, if they can, my concern for Perry and Evolve is that they should be behind the 8-ball against the Mel and the Sejuani. Like, that shouldn't be an advantageous 2v2 for them, just given the strength of Mel early on, and then Sejuani and some of these early skirmishes against Maokai can get the best of them if she gets the permafrost off. So, I'm with you, Rafa. Like, hopefully they can kind of steady the time, but I think the strongest or best lane for them early on has got to be this Ambessa into the Yorick, and then the goal early on should be to just kind of get Maokai through the first couple of clears, and then afterwards we'll see what happens, because you can see from these lanes on your screen, it is Conviction behind in all three. Yeah.
Yeah. Every lane from Luminosity Gaming is winning, and while Sejuani might not be the sexiest champion to really take advantage of 3 winning lanes there, because you're not necessarily a champion that's
you have against this Poro,
No, I don't have anything, but it's not like you're playing something that's going to benefit from counter jungling or be able to like get a lot of value of counter jungling or invading and trying to get aggressive with the enemy jungler. But you do have that advantage. I like the fact that Perry showed on the bottom side of the map. It did prevent him from being able to go to his top side camps that much quicker. But like you said, he had to, because there was so much lane dominance being shown by Tactical and Zazel that Viper and Stun needed some breathing room.
I think that if he doesn't show there, then the likelihood of a dive is from Tomio goes up, because Viper and Stunt were pretty far behind early on, and Stunt is already down the heal, so it's not like you're getting more health back in that lane outside of Senecuse. But yeah, That's a pretty tough start, and even with Perry showing face down there, I think this could very easily still lead to a dive as Tactical, again, getting the best of Viper in this laning phase. And yep, here comes Tomio. I mean, they got around the Maokai. Perry sprinting all the way back down, but it's too late. And both these games are going to start with very positive starts for Luminosity Gaming's bot side.
Stun does at least lead with the empowered tether, so he gets a lot of health back. Viper flashes forward, tries to empower heal his teammate, but he still goes down anyway. It's first blood going over to Tactical, and now Viper has no way out because he committed on the play. And Luminosity Gaming don't lose a single man for the dive. Ooh. And top lane, TF Blade almost going down to the Yorick minions.
Oh, it was the D shield, the second win, the cookies, everything. As Insanity gonna try and TP out, he does so successfully. Gets to the mid inner turret. Heads up play from Insanity, always a crafty player, whether it's champs he's able to bring out to the Rift or small stuff like that. As Luminosity Gaming, not even 5 minutes of the game yet, Rafa, and they have found wins in all 3 lanes.
Even for Insanity, who
out to win.
Yeah, the fact that he was getting aggressed on, they lost Flash on both Parry and Evolved, and Insanity is able to trade evenly on Summoner spells. That's a win in mental damage right there.
Yeah, that too. I mean, we got a good chuckle out of that. That had to have been a bit of a feels bad man from Conviction, but that is an Insanity locked in and an Insanity that we like to see. He didn't have the same dominant regular season for me as some of the other mids. He was the only member of Luminosity Gaming not voted the first team All-Pro. It was player votes. So LG in our regular season, they weren't our top team, but it seemed like they were doing well in scrims behind the scenes because, again, majority of the votes we had in our voting were from players, so they voted for Luminosity Gaming being the top team. Us in the broadcast, we definitely didn't have the majority of Luminosity Gaming as the first team All-Pro, but we would do. They have certainly been the team to beat in playoffs. That's what matters far more than all the above, Rafa. And I mean, the buzzsaw just continues. I mean, I hate to just overuse this word, but it really does feel like it is just the most fitting adjective to describe Luminosity Gaming because there has not been a single team that has really held a candle to them.
Yeah, once we got into playoffs and outside of the best-of-1 regular season format, it has just been Luminosity Gaming on full cylinders, firing, and pretty much every single engine that they have at their disposal here. I don't know, man. Luminosity Gaming just being able to prove that you get them outside of just the one-game scenario, and they show that, okay, yeah, this is how much more breathing room that we have. We're finally locked in for the season when it counts, when it matters. And they knew that they were always going to be a team strong enough to get into playoffs in the first place. And now Luminosity Gaming showing up when it matters. And I like the fact that you brought up for Insanity because, you know, regular season, not necessarily the strongest showing, but ever since he got into playoffs format, he has looked by far and away the best mid laner here.
Yeah, Mel, another new pick for him too, as we'll see
Tomio has
they
flash.
Can catch Tomio. Does have flash, but Evolve is all. Oh, he finds the pocket.
Shield is sidestepped, and Tomio just Arctic assaults away. You have got to be kidding me.
Oh man, they got that Poro on Ozempic as that Fate Sealed could not find the Sejuani. Tomio just able to squeeze his way on out of there between a rock and a hard place. As
one of the craziest calls you've made so far this year. I love you, man.
LA's getting to me, man. It's fine.
That's
but
awesome.
Tomio, he's walking down the red buff, the best visibilities, and again, just can continue to farm. That was an attempted play that goes sideways from Perry and Evolved, and Tomio's ahead. In terms of the camp count, that might matter, as I expect him to reset after the Krugs, and we'll see if he picks the Grubs or the Dragon after this camp and after the shop.
Zazel even covering Insanity on this mid wave just to make sure that he can safely and aggressively push in this wave and get a reset off, as he's been sitting on this tier and boots combo ever since he was forced to base early after getting ganked by Perry and Evolve just a few minutes ago. So now this should be able to at least open up Insanity to get a more powerful back the next time he is able to get a chance to do so. Zazel setting up with Tomio on the top side. We've got Grub spawning on the Rift here. Tactical even shifting over to the mid lane as well.
I mean, Tactical's the big difference maker here, because once TF Blade shows bot, he has no TP. So if Luminosity Gaming staying disciplined and tracking those timers, you're going to know that they're going to be up numbers no matter what here. As TF Blade does show on that bot wave. And yeah, Conviction, Luminosity Gaming, both understanding where things are at. Grubs are theirs. So we'll say 2 games in a row where Luminosity Gaming have prioritized the Grubs over the Dragon. I do feel like that's the common trend that we are seeing from playoffs, and I feel like this is globally. I think the big difference for me is the fact that if you do secure Grubs at this point, you got 5 minutes to try and knock down turrets, plates, get the first brick that helps you secure the feats. I think that's the most consistent. The most consistent way to replicate feats is the first 3 kills and first brick. So we really have seen teams, I feel like globally, be more dedicated to taking those 3 Grubs just to empower the turret taking ability you get, not just throughout the games, but especially in the next 5 minutes, which, keep in mind, was the point of the game where Luminosity Gaming really blew up their gold lead over Conviction in the last game.
Exactly. Luminosity Gaming was just able to ram 4 plates in the top lane by themselves and balloon what was just a small 2,000 gold advantage into a 4,000 one before Conviction Esports really had done anything proactive themselves. I can appreciate that Perry has already tried making some early looks on the map, trying to cover for Viper and Stunt. Unfortunately, Tomio is able to force it anyway and get a massive advantage for Tactical and Zazel afterwards. They try to make a play on Insanity. Unfortunately, they don't have any CC to stop him from teleporting out. So now, Perry might just have to look for another play on the top side as Tactical and Zazel gets aggressive. Viper and Stunt stay alive thanks to that power of the Dawning Shadow and the Mantra Shields. Viper and Stunt will be able to safely collect this wave and can thank for themselves that Conviction Esports have enough sustain in that lane to survive.
Honestly, I thought they were in trouble. That ended up being okay for them, as we might have Tomio get creative here, playing with the control wards. Observers fooled me. He's going towards the top side. Will be spotted this time around, though.
Viper has cleansed, but he is way too low to survive an encounter from Tomio. Stunt tries to flash preemptively on the Glacial Prison, but Tomio is patient and secures feats of warfare for Luminosity Gaming.
Just one too many waves, and this is where the start of the game, we did have our junglers have mirrored clears. I mean, Perry, his top camps are up, but he's finishing clearing at the bottom. Tomio, he's cleaning up camps on the other side. Junglers just on the opposite side of the map. Perry can't interact with that lane. I don't think Conviction is able to play that lane, as they play one wave too many and get punished for it.
You can see here that Stunt is fearing the Glacial Prison coming out of the animation of Arctic Assault, but Tomio waits just 1 second and then sends out to ultimate there. So now Luminosity Gaming find themselves not at the monstrous 4,000 gold advantage that they were around this timer, but it is getting closer to the 2,000 gold advantage mark, and they still have another 3 minutes to knock out some plates. And while we have some time here, Matt, we want to remind everyone at home, shout out to prodiff.gg. If you want to get some one-on-one coaching with former or current pros from the LTA or the NACL, some that are on your screen right now, scan the QR code and schedule a one-on-one today to get some tips for yourself in your next solo queue adventure.
Maybe Teams Adventure. Whatever League of Legends adventure you have decided to start, get advice from the pros. Also, could ask them about casting, as they've all had to make videos now for these sponsored deliverables. You know, they might be able to give you some feedback on more than just gameplay, too. Maybe life. Ask them about that. Or maybe ask TF Wade how he's going to get out of this one, as Public Execution is the opener, and frankly, that was the right answer, as he takes the Sejuani off the table and gets himself out of there. But still, that wave doesn't look great, so you're going to need the support of his team.
Sounds like a pop quiz moment right there. It's like, hey, you see a Sejuani approaching from behind you. What do you do? Hang on, TF Blade turning on the Jets here, knowing that he's got Perry and Stunt behind him. Flash from the Maokai. Instant use of Zazel's ultimate to make sure that Tactical has enough time to get away from danger, as Conviction Esports are not able to lock down Tactical. Now Tomio reappears in the bottom lane, gets aggressive on the Stunt. Decent damage into his health bar, brings him below 50% HP. Looks for the Glacial Prison on the TF Blade. At this time, there's no way to escape it on that one. Tomio extends the kill leaderboard to 4 for Luminosity Gaming, as now Insanity is showing up to the bottom lane.
Sent a sapling back in midair, gonna stop the recall from Stunt, and now we might have another fight. Insanity does have ult. He can keep on fighting this. He's to wait for an E still.
He's building up the stacks for the Golden Eclipse. Is forced to flash away the sapling damage. Oh, he sidesteps the Dawning Shadow, but the sapling hits him anyway. Conviction Esports find their first kill of Game 2.
Yeah, he popped the R, but wasn't able to find the execute. He's going to get people quite low enough as Insanity overplays his hand the first time we've seen him playing the Mel. Goes down, and it does give Conviction something. Still, it is Luminosity Gaming really absorbing the initial play from TF Blade. I thought the Tactical played his way out of that one very nicely with Zazel. Again, just making it look easy, defending against that Maokai engage, and it was a big chunk from TFY that opened up that play in the first place. Definitely have to give him a wee bit of credit there. But still, it is conviction. You know, we did say that wherever the Sejuani is going to be at early on, going to be stronger. Just given the first item tank, she gets to throw her weight around a lot. Kind of tricky for Maokai to deal with. We have seen Tomio really take advantage of that. He is 3-0-1 to start, and frankly, through this game, he has been running the map this game. The entire game has been dictated off of this Sejuani, and Tomio has been on point.
Tomio definitely taking inspiration from inspired Sejuani performance at MSI, where a lot of times people might be confused that Sejuani, they just think it's just a tank champion. But when you're able to get that many Heartsteel stacks and that much gold injected early on, you do have such incredibly high base damage that scales with your HP.
Yeah.
So if Tomio can continue leading the charge, he's not only absorbing damage, but he's also putting out a decent amount of burst on the first engage there.
And we haven't even seen him like double stack the Permafrost passive with the ult too.
No.
Which is, I mean, that's where the Sejuani damage like really does come from. But Conviction, we are 15 minutes into this game. It is not the same deficit they faced in game 1, but it is the same answer to the game state, which is try and cross map because you know you can't fight the second dragon. So it goes the way of Tomio. Infernal Drake picked up Cloud Soul on the Rift, and Luminosity Gaming continue to hold a pretty stable 1.5k gold lead here, 15 minutes in.
One dragon apiece now for both teams. Rift Herald has now spawned. Luminosity Gaming trying to see if they can answer Conviction Esports as it's an early Nature's Grasp from Perry just to hold the line here. But they don't get really any value out of it. It just momentarily stalls Luminosity Gaming from getting into the topside river. Saplings are going to do some decent damage onto the health bars of Luminosity, but not enough to really deter them from taking the objective.
Yeah, we did see Insanity save his W there. Instead, Tomio caught it. I think that's fine. You're going to have to see if that changes later on. Also, I know that we said that Insanity cannot use the W on Yone's ult. Just want to add the amendment of he can use it on the Q3. That is a projectile, so you can send the knockup back towards the Yone, which is at times very good defense for the matchup. So we'll see if that ends up being the case later on. We did see him send a sapling back, which that was kind of funny. He just teleported the Groot in midair. It's like throwing Groots inside of people's brains and making them explode, you know?
It definitely
that's what I'm
like
picturing.
Yeah, I get it, and I don't disagree with it. I think the play in itself was definitely very comical, just for Insanity to kind of think, okay, we have such a good advantage here that I don't need to spend my W on anything else. Unfortunately, it did give Conviction Esports their first kill of the game, just a little bit of an overextension on the play there from Luminosity Gaming, but nothing too condemning for their position, as they're still around 2,000 gold ahead. The nice thing for Conviction Esports this time around, though, Matt, is that the gold deficit is nowhere near as stark as it was in Game 1 at this time.
Yeah, and I don't think the scaling is as one-sided as it would have been for Conviction in the last game. It has helped them kind of balance things out. I still am not entirely sure what the game plan is here for Conviction, outside of knowing that, hey, if it goes like late, Senna's really strong. As Viper getting, you know, a big range advantage is good, but it's hard to play into York. They're attempting it now, and Perry's going to get low. He has to flash out. Fake God flashes his as well, but that's a successful 1v2 where Fake God's able to stay strong.
Meanwhile, Luminosity Gaming break open the map with the Tier 1 turret being felled by the Rift Herald. Crash. Tomio is on the bottom side of the map just to make sure that Perry is pushed away from being able to defend the Tier 1 turret, and they are supporting Fake God on this siege. Luminosity Gaming continuing to pretty much run up Conviction Esports across the map.
This is a really good example of how you can use mid-prio, by the way, because it was mid-prio that opened up Tactical and Zazel to go hover that lane to knock down the turret. And then that same mid-prio, like, Senna can't push that fast. It's going to allow for Tactical to get the majority of that wave. So was able to help take down a turret and gets the most of the wave. You'll take that if you're LG as they take down their second turret of the game. Continue to stay fed, continue to stay big on this map. So, I mean, as we go through, I think that the Senna getting big does look like it's going to be the Black Cleaver build for Viper this game. I think that as many souls as you can stack in that range could be big. We'll see if we can get a soul count from production, potentially on the Senna, to see where she's sitting. Definitely going to be harder to farm against that double range lane. where they were behind for the vast majority of it.
And hopefully for Conviction Esports' sake, they are coordinating between Viper and TF Blade to make sure that they are not double stacking. And thankfully, TF Blade knows the assignment, has the Tunneler in his inventory, so more than likely going for that Shojin for the extra ability haste, stacking, and just overall a really powerful item for Mbessa that is such a grand 2-item spike. The fact that the gold lead hasn't really escaped Conviction Esports' grasp so far in this game, I feel like there's definitely a much bigger chance for Conviction to do some meaningful damage by the time we get to the big objective in Otter in just a minute time.
Yeah, we'll see if either team can really like dedicate towards a setup for that. I will say that Otter, you know, spawning bot here could get a bit frisky with Dragon spawning in 30 seconds on the same side of the map as well. So far, Luminosity Gaming, they're the ones with control. Maokai can help defend against that, but you're only going to deal out so much chip damage when you're going up against a Milio. I think that's part of the idea behind the defense into Maokai and why Milio is such a good pick in Maokai games, not just to get out of the Nature's Grasp, but also it turned those saplings pretty irrelevant too between Sejuani passive and Milio shield / sustain. So Conviction having trouble making any forward progress here against what LG has thrown out so far. We'll see how aggressive they want to posture around this dragon.
Oh, the solar snare, you were talking about it before, Matt. Perry gets snagged, and Luminosity Gaming can just rip that jungler apart. Conviction Esports have to give ground in that jungle quadrant, and with no smite available from Conviction Esports, that's a free Otacon for Luminosity.
Your best defense against abilities like that as Maokai is to use the Twisted Advance to get out of it. But Mel Z outranges you. And, of course, Perry getting caught there. Easy chain setup with Tomio as, again, LG. I mean, this game, it feels like Conviction, it's closer, right? Like, it's somewhat competitive. But the answers in the end, it's all been so LG favored as we're going to have TF Blade send it.
Okay, well, Tomio is committed to the Otacon just to smite it away. It's secure for Luminosity Gaming, but the fight from Evolve, he's going to force a decent 2-man Fate Sealed onto the backline, but the Breath of Life from Zazel keeps everyone sustained through the engage, and Conviction Esports are not able to get any kills off the back end of the engage.
And that's everything used by Conviction. The choice for LG is, are they going to be able to maybe contest this dragon? Insanity gets his base stopped. He doesn't have TP up, so I do think that Conviction off the back half of that, even though they didn't make progress with the health bars, they traded tools, and they'll get the dragon for themselves as LG just fixes their waves and gives that one over.
Decent consolation prize for Conviction Esports that they will not be the most, sad about. Insanity, little low on the health bar, and definitely too low on the mana bar to continue his time on Summoner's Rift. He's going to have to take a trip back to the fountain to respawn and redeploy. Conviction Esports still keeping themselves within decent striking range. They are down about 3,000 gold still at the 21-minute mark here against Luminosity Gaming. But when we look at the level leads, well, the Otacon is definitely helping make a difference here.
Ooh, do have word from our production. A shout out to Jet Skis, who's been in our ear for the whole year. 53 souls from on the Senna. So I believe behind the curve a bit. We don't have the nice fancy graphic that the LTA flies, where it's the Senna souls on average. I love that one. I think it really puts into perspective, what you're looking for when looking at the soul counts of champions like Senna, like Smolder. I believe that their median, though, is around 20 minutes. I think it was like 52, 53. So a little bit behind the curve for Viper, but honestly not that bad, given that he was into a double range lane. So Senna going to be at a decent spot right now.
He actually has a level advantage over Tactical, too, which is pretty surprising. I guess he was just getting a lot of solo experience for himself.
Must have been the case a little bit. Still is going to be his team on the back foot, as he is one of the few people that has a lead on the squad.
Yeah. Oh, big engage into the river. Fake God is the target. Perry does everything he can to try and lock him down, but he is way too tanky and durable. Snag from the Fake God, or the public execution from TF Blade is just not enough to be able to seal down the top lane of Luminosity Gaming, and now the counter engage is something that Conviction Esports are going to have to respect as they give ground over to Luminosity on the top side river.
And that York just a bit too big
Oh,
as
no,
they throw
Perry!
2 into him. Perry tried to greed for his camp. He loses out on the smite and is going to lose out maybe on his life.
Yep.
Tomio gets him.
Frost finally gets in range. Tomio is in the middle of 3 people in the back line, but he's so damn tanky. He flashes away from the Fates Sealed and dodges out on what could have been the end of his big shutdown bounty. Luminosity Gaming continuing to dominate Summoner's Rift here in Game 2 of our grand final.
Now pushes him out. Tomio 100% KP and 5 kills on this Sejuani as he continues to cruise. But the play starts on the Fake God as the 1.5 V2. Him and the Maiden were doing some work. Yes, the public execution connects, but man, that was a lot of healing that came down from the Milio. Azazel will make sure that his top laner, the guy that he's been playing with for almost 3 years now, stays safe in the top side. And man, yeah, Perry, I mean, that jungle is just not his after that play goes the way it does in the mid lane. So Tomio going to be able to punish and Conviction fall further behind.
You know, earlier, Matt, we were saying that Conviction Esports still had a chance in this game and that the deficit was nowhere near as staggering as it was in Game 1. And
Yeah,
while
5K
numbers-wise, it's still, you know, 4,000 to 5,000, but it just feels so condemning now, given the state that Luminosity Gaming find themselves in. Conviction Esports have 2 dragons for themselves, which is kind of nice, installing out the soul point, but the way that Luminosity Gaming have been able to almost effortlessly control the map, it just gives me a lot of concern about how Conviction Esports can find a way back into this game.
Look, like we've lovingly called this team the LTA rejects for the entire split because of what they've accomplished historically in Tier 2. And I think that this is a team where, compared to a lot of the other NACL teams, they just don't make some of the same mistakes, have some of the same pitfalls that a lot of teams fall in. Like, for example, when you're lower ELO, or Tier 2, gotta pause, flash public execution, that's going to be a dead York. Good find by Conviction.
Esports. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good play. I didn't see that one on my screen. Meanwhile, we have a little bit of a skirmish mid. LG tried to force Conviction to weather the storm, though. As Viper clears away, good play from Conviction. This is nice, but still, like LG, some of the pitfalls they have as a team, or a lot of our NACL teams have. For example, I think that the lower ELO you go, the harder it is for some players to play out blinds. That's not the case for Luminosity Gaming. They are able to play out so many champions and a wide variety of it. They've proven that at a pro level and here. The other is like map rotations. They don't make the same mistakes that other teams do. Like, we have seen a lot of NACL games get sloppy, get messy. We're looking at, 6, 7, 8 Drakes in a game where it takes for us to decide it. Not the case with Luminosity Gaming. They've gotten leads and they have taken care of business throughout in a consistent manner that we just don't see with the other teams in our league. And that has really been what has made them into this buzzsaw that we've called them for the majority of playoffs.
Which is why for Conviction Esports, against almost every other team, they've been able to outsmart or outplay when it comes to the macro, even when they don't get the early game advantages. Against Luminosity, they can't pull off the same type of map tricks there. Luminosity Gaming not only lead these games with these snowball advantages, but they also ensure that they're not dropping anything too severe when it comes to the cross-map trade. And because of this, Conviction Esports not able to force off Luminosity Gaming from the 4th dragon of the game. It's going to be in their hands.
Gonna look for the top side to a Baron. We'll see if TFWay can pick up that outer turret in response. I'll take the dragon at this point of the game, but still, I think the wallets of Luminosity Gaming being respected. And it's not like Conviction don't have outs as we go late. I mean, this will be an eventual 3-item Mbessa. Maokai is only going to get likely tankier from here after the Leandries and the Bloodletters, and has Senna Yone scale well as champion. So it's not like this game is, I think, completely done and dusted. I mean, a 3k gold deficit for Conviction is not terrible after they do pick up that turret.
Yeah.
Going to be in a little bit better shape, but it still is a series that feels very Luminosity Gaming sided, and this game does still feel like it's in control of LG.
TFBlade is even going for a lethality item. I think this is either, well, it can't be, is this going to be Collector? This is... No,
Serpent's Fang.
Serpent's Fang, that's right.
Yeah.
Just a way to try and eliminate the shields away from Luminosity Gaming, because it has been kind of a make or break for Luminosity Gaming in a lot of these fights where some of their carries are getting dropped super, super low, but the last minute shields from Zazel is keeping them alive. So hopefully by the time that TFBlade can pick it up here for himself on the Mbessa, it could be a difference maker for Conviction Esports.
Oh, stun.
Oh, no, stun!
That's a lot of people.
Oh, no, stun!
Oh, boy.
That jungle doesn't belong to you, my friend. And unfortunately for Conviction Esports, they now lose out on their support. Meanwhile, they're making another cross-map play onto Fake God's York. Once again, it's TF Blade and Evolve trying to get it done, but the flash wave from Fake God, he throws out the thumbs up too. Mental damage secured for Fake God as TF Blade also takes another turret shot as he was too far in range. And Luminosity Gaming can just benefit on taking this free Baron.
A successful 1.5 v2 with the help of the Maiden turns into a free Baron for Luminosity Gaming as Fake God stands strong in that bot lane. And that 1v2, really, the first time around, he didn't have access to Flash, and it was a good combo from Blade and Evolve that got him. This time around, had the Flash, had a few more levels under his belt, too, and played it out just that much better in order to live, get his team the Baron, and secure a further foothold in this game for Luminosity Gaming.
You know what? Parry does at least get a blue buff. That's a mental.
Oh, that is,
right
that sounds, you know, sounds like we should start talking about the next game if we're talking about that for Conviction. We're going to be honest.
Listen, as sometimes you need the small wins to keep the momentum going, to keep the positive mindset. Because this is a long best of 5, and one against Luminosity Gaming, who are going to be merciless as they continue trying to undermine you at every stage of the game. You got to do what you can to keep that focus here in this grand final. As a reminder, winner not only wins the split, but also gets guaranteed first seed into the LTA promotion tournament. Second seed means you have to play through a play-in best of 5 just for a chance to have a second life in the double elimination bracket. And with Tactical opening up with the culling and getting a decent chunk onto Conviction Esports members, they're forcing them off the turret. Parry throws out the Nature's Grasp, tries to stop him, but it's already too late. The damage has been done, and Luminosity Gaming can now take their leave.
Evolve gonna look for an angle. LG continue to just kind of pump out, match the poke. It's getting, Perry's getting some work done, but you can't compete against Mel in this game state as Insanity.
Oh!
Yep, there it is. Another root comes in. That was a pretty big choke that Insanity was able to hold by himself, as can't get Evolved on the snapback, but Evolve gonna have to ult his way on out of there. And yep, the pressure continues from Luminosity Gaming again, making it look too damn easy, Rafa.
Insanity's first time on the Mel. Obviously, that bot lane play maybe was a little too over-aggressive and bold. Public execution, though, from TF Blade tries to turn the tides around. Insanity is able to block some damage with a rebuttal, but he eventually gets shut down thanks to the Dawning Shadow. But the rest of Luminosity Gaming reinforced the play, and now it's Evolved in trouble. Now it's Viper flashing away, but he's not going to be able to escape as maybe, just maybe, but I take it back. Tomio finds one more Arctic Assault into the Winter's Wrath. And Luminosity Gaming on the victory march. We're going for the cinematic panorama because the observers know that this game is done and dusted, and Luminosity Gaming are on match point for our grand final.
A great game from Tomio. Just, I feel like start to finish really dictated the pace of that game, Rafa. It was the bot lane that started with the pressure for Luminosity Gaming. I mean, it felt like LG's lanes were winning, but how Tomio was able to drive home those victories and control the map, I feel like that was just a very, very solid game from Luminosity Gaming, who continue to just play good League of Legends. That boot camp that they have together up in Toronto, I mean, these guys are firing at all cylinders, and they have 3 chances now to hoist that NACL trophy and win back-to-back splits.
2 words, Matt. Locked in. That's exactly what Luminosity Gaming are for this grand final. And Tomio, we highlighted it earlier with this Sejuani, maybe taking some notes from inspired Sejuani performance over at MSI. Well, he definitely did his best cosplay of it. 6-0-6, absolutely deathless, and a huge monster on the Rift, leading every charge and ensuring that every member of Conviction Esports was no longer a threat against his team. And now, Luminosity Gaming finds themselves at match point. So Matt, if you're Conviction Esports, well, we'll get your thoughts because it's time to throw to a short break. When we come back, it's going to be Game 3 on screen here for Grand Final.
I think that getting the award Rookie of the Year, that's very I'm very happy about this, and especially since there are many rookies that I consider to be very strong and good from this year. Especially a player like Sushi, I think has impressed me a lot. But while there are a lot of good rookies, I do think that I deserve this award. I'm really happy to know that a lot of people also thought so, and it wasn't just a bias because I'm getting the award. But that makes me really happy, and just want to say, I mean, thank you to everybody who has supported my team, everybody who has supported me, and I want everybody to know that I'm gonna keep improving and getting better. And if you think that my showing this year was good, then my next year performance is gonna blow everyone out of the water. And I hope everybody keeps supporting me in my journey to go to LTA.
Welcome back, y'all. We're getting ready for game number 3 between Luminosity Gaming and Conviction Esports in our grand final of the second split of the 2025 NACL season. As we have been discussing over the course of this series, Luminosity Gaming were the favorites going into this upper bracket final rematch against Conviction Esports. And while credit to Conviction, they were able to overcome Blue Otter in the lower bracket final and guarantee a spot in the LTA promotion tournament. They are now down, backs against the wall, trying to make a reverse sweep against the defending NACL champions from Split 1.
Yeah, and I mean, Luminosity Gaming, they have just looked better. I think individually and as a team so far. Both games have been pretty controlled. I can only think of 1 or 2 instances where Conviction had a winning play or even had a chance at a winning play, just given how well Luminosity Gaming has played these first couple of games as a team. I think game 2 specifically, a lot of credit goes to Tomio for how he dictated that map. Definitely had the help of his team winning out early on with those lanes, but I love how he played and cashed that in. I think they had a very good understanding of what they needed to do to win that one.
And when we think about what the stakes are for winning this series, for Luminosity Gaming in particular, not only it guarantees that they become the first seed representing NACL in the LTA promotion tournament for 2026, but it also is a statement win for Luminosity Gaming for this roster of individuals who have played together multiple times over the course of the past 2-3 years, whether it was on Shopify Rebellion in 2024 or Disguised and C9 Challengers in 2023. These players have proven that anytime they get a chance to play together here in Tier 2, they're just far and away beyond the level of any other team we have seen. I think we've seen some decent challenges from other teams in the past splits, but now Luminosity Gaming are here to show that they deserve a second shot at playing at the highest level here in the Americas.
I mean, for a lot of these guys, is it really a second shot? Is it a fourth shot? Is it an eighth shot? Is it a 12th shot? Look, there are very familiar faces, but I think that with NACL and the system that we have, you know, you are a team that gets to fight for your spot now. Are you just going to be the better team? And I think that given the league narrowed, I think that it's kind of sweet justice that these guys do get to compete for their own spot, because this is a team historically. I mean, if we have a 10-team league, a lot of these guys are probably involved in it, right? I think that the fact that none of them were involved at the highest level, for a lot, that's pretty surprising. I think Insanity is the name that most people think of as how is that guy not playing in Tier 1, right? So the fact that they get to fight for their own spot, I think is fantastic. And yeah, they have been the team where it wasn't firing at all cylinders regular season, but they got through the regular season with a good seed. And what mattered is that it fires on all cylinders now. For 2 months, they need to peak. And so far, they've done nothing but peak for this. And hey, if they play well for another game, they'll be our #1 seed. We won't see them until October 2nd, as they have another big tournament to prep for after this.
And we'll see what potential final look we get from Luminosity Gaming in our grand final, as they are 1 game victory away of clinching that #1 seed and winning Split 2, being back-to-back champions here in the NACL for the 2025 season. Conviction Esports return to Blue Side, seeing if they can find a priority pick for themselves. Last game, it was trying to invest into the Maokai pick, and while you mentioned there were a couple of moments where Perry was able to at least find some answers early on to stabilize, or at least attempt to stabilize the game, it wasn't enough at the end of the day. Tomio still was leading the charge on the Sejuani, and now with the skirmisher jungle pool further diminished from the first game, and the tank jungle pool diminished as well, we're really going to be digging into some pockets here for both Perry and Tomio.
Curious if Trundle makes an appearance, as we aren't going to see a Maokai ban here from Luminosity Gaming. They banned Nautilus in this slot last game, but the Poppy ban, with both Vi and Poppy taken away, I'm looking towards maybe a Xin Zhao or a Talia, which gets denied from Evolved here. But I think Xin, Trundle, a couple junglers that are left that are quite strong. And I think one thing for me, Conviction's backs up against the wall. So what are we going to see out of Conviction to try and win a game? I think their best strat's actually been putting stun on an Enchantress, letting Viper step forward, and then finding engage in other roles. So I think that denying Trundle would be good, just to maybe set up a Scion game, or a tank for TF Blade. It's TF Blade, I know historically it's been a carry player in solo queue, but I think his tank play has actually been really solid from what we've seen from him so far in NACL. So for me, it's just mostly about making sure that Stunt does get that Enchantress that he can play on, and then seeing, from there, if you can build a comp around that, because I feel like that's been Conviction's greatest strength. Because a lot of teams have been unwilling to play some of these Moonstone supports.
Trundle Alistar immediately locked in response when they see the Corki being first picked by Conviction Esports. Now, if they really want to get creative, a couple of options into Trundle specifically. I know that junglers have taken the Jarvan in the past, as that's a way that you don't have to necessarily directly interact, but the Ivern getting locked in for Conviction Esports. This was an angle that was explored by Blue Otter in their lower bracket series. Maybe Perry's going to learn something here, or learn something from that series in particular, understanding the power of those shields, if they can get maybe a powerful double marksman composition for Evolved and Viper. No!
We're going out with a bang.
Maybe just give some shields to Viper's signature Riven,
We're
getting locked here in Game 3, yeah.
Well, if this is it for Conviction, they're always going to do so, playing their style. We'll see how creative they want to get here with this Ivern. But I'm expecting that Corki to be mid, and that Riven to be in the hands of Viper. So now, what is the response from Luminosity Gaming? I think a lot of the ADs that you can play into Riven, are kind of off the board. Like, you get no Ezreal. I think Renekton is the right pick here. You get Shield Break. It denies a good pick in the Trundle. You can play this really well into Riven. Just having that point-and-click W, the Shield Break.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a really good matchup in the 1v1. This is not going to be the 1v1, but if you are able to find this matchup in the mid-game, it could be really nice for Fake God.
Now for Luminosity, just try and eliminate options from TF Blade that might have a more advantageous laning phase into the Renekton, or at least be able to survive against it. I'm not sure if Conviction Esports are going to do something where they swap Viper over to the top side of the map and try and 1v1 Fake God in the top side, because not a Riven expert, but from what I've seen in the past, Renekton is a more difficult matchup.
He deletes Riven. If
Yeah.
you lose the Renekton versus Riven matchup, then you got gap. It's pretty bad if you lose that one. That's a very, very good Renekton matchup. Rack is going to be taken away. Again, they're trying to find like more damage dealers, because if you do just slam a Scion in a Renekton, which is a good matchup, in isolation, well, then you get trundled. So that can be difficult later on. So yeah, I don't mind the bans actually from LG. I am curious to see what TF Blade does go for, as I'm trying to dig through his pool right now about what could be some options for him. And
Gotta be AP, because they're lacking some magic damage already with the Corki and the Riven already locked in, which is why they opted in for the Gragas and Gwen. Rumbles has not been available this entire ban phase. Aurora, maybe
Ornn is the, yeah, I think that's a good shout. Yeah, Aurora gonna be taken away.
Just gonna snipe it away. Shoot.
Only other champion that he's played that has even dealt any bit of magic damage has actually been Ornn. So if it ends up being an Ornn, I mean, you give Trundle away some gifts, but you can play Ornn kind of in a Renekton Alistar Trundle. I think that Ivern actually does solve a lot of problems against Trundle. I really like Ivern just as a thematic counter to Trundle. Trundle, he wants to steal stats. Well, on Ivern, like, you're giving shields. You're not exactly building stats for yourself. And then between Daisy, the roots, and the shield is quite good.
Okay.
I think Ziggs is the pick. Is it Corki top? I think it's going to be Corki top maybe in a Renekton. I think it's the only option you have is a way to play out of this, really.
Yeah, I guess I can see that. Just give TF Blade the marksman top lane, and just try to abuse it that way, and put stun on engage duty so that you have some frontline semblance of and I like that it's Leona of all tank champions, because it's non-committal with the solar flare, so that way if you fish for an ulti and it's not one that the rest of Conviction Esports want to follow up on, you don't have to go in. But Luminosity, recognizing that there's not much guaranteed lockdown, means that Tactical can have the complete freedom and mobility to skate around with Zeri on a Lightning Crash popped ultimate.
Also definitely signals that they want to play bursty fights. I mean, between Alistar, and then you have Between Worlds, you have Zeri ult, and then Renekton going in. Hopefully you're able to find a really bursty fight where the Ivern doesn't get Valiant in a long fight, the Wei doesn't get Valiant in a long fight. I will say, I do want to give Conviction some credit, because we were kind of scratching our heads at where they're going to pivot from this draft. I do think that Corki top and Wei mid was actually one of the better pivots they could have found. Wei has decent properties in this game, just given that you have range on everyone. And we'll see if Evolve can make use of that. But you have a good range advantage this game on everyone. I think the fear, especially against Trundle, actually can help you play defense against the pillar better than some other artillery mages, immobile mages. We'll just see if he's able to cash in. I'm just really concerned for Conviction with how these fights can break out early on. I just think that the lockdown from Alistar, Renekton, and especially that shield break that can definitely get value against the Riven Ivern team, that can be really tough to deal with. And Corki, well, in that 1v1, you can play against Renekton, and it's okay. If there's any influence on that lane, Renekton's going to like having friends up there a lot more than Corki, because that gank assist that he can bring can be very big. So I expect to see action top, because I think it's important that A, you protect this Corki, but B, if you are Tomio and you can break that Corki early on, to be the biggest advantage you could find in this early game for Luminosity Gaming.
Yeah, TF Blade has got to be careful on when he uses Valkyrie, because if he uses it preemptively and then Fake God sets up a double slice and dice into Tomio gank setup with the pillar, and you don't have flash to TF Blade, oh boy, well then you're very easy to kill isolated in that 2v1 scenario. I will say for Conviction Esports, if they are able to stabilize a lot of these laning phases and reduce the amount of influence that Tomio is going to find on this Trundle early on, when you get to some of these poke scenarios, I love the combo. Solar Flare, if it snags someone, you can just throw Corki rockets at it. You can throw a full Hui combo on top of it as well without ever trying to go into the backline. So Conviction Esports have a really cool identity going for themselves into at least the mid game. But of course, that's enough analysis insight for us here on the two compositions drafted by both of our teams. It's now for you in chat to decide who's going to take this Game 3 win. Is it going to be hashtag CNV for Conviction win or hashtag LG for Luminosity Gaming win? And make sure to use the hashtag NACL if you're continuing the conversation on our socials at NACL or at WatchNACL. I have to say, if this is the last game of the series, I can really appreciate that Conviction Esports are really giving us a lot of creativity in what they're showing as what could be their last stand.
I mean, they're a tough team to prep for. I know Blue Otter said that after they dropped the series to Conviction yesterday. I think that was a trend that Blue Otter had for a lot of the playoffs too. And it's not just for picks like the Riven. I mean, I thought that the Game 2 draft, while it ended up losing, was at least had some good cohesive ideas with it. And I do think that this one, the pivot to Corki top, was really one of the few options that they had looking at the 4-5 picks to make what this draft was showing work. So credit where credit's due, but we can talk about draft theory and, you know, what it looks like in a box all you want. When you've hit the rift, the better team has been Luminosity Gaming by a long shot so far. So Conviction going to need to step up regardless of what they're playing. They want to compete with LG in the series.
Luminosity Gaming are just one Nexus away from being able to secure #1 seed for themselves going into the LTA promotion tournament for 2026. A chance to face Disguise and snipe away their slot going into the next competitive season of LTA North. Conviction Esports, we're going to see if they can dig deep, if they can find a way to reverse the momentum, flip the script here, because it has been Luminosity Gaming completely dominant the entire series here. But if there's anything that we've learned in NACL, anything can happen. So let's see how it all unfolds in our potential final game of the series between Conviction Esports and Luminosity Gaming.
I mean, look, folks, if this one goes the way the game 1 and 2 did, this will be the last game that we have for NACL finals. But Conviction were able to get a game off of Luminosity Gaming the first time they met in the playoff bracket. We'll see if they can do so the second time around, Rafa, as it really was. I think the first game that they were able to take off of Luminosity Gaming, it was that game 2 of the series. I thought it was a pretty good draft diff, and a lot of that was around, you know, they got Azir, which I think giving Azir is just a mistake in general. But at least they tried to play the Ziggs into it. But a lot of those champions, like, off the table, it still is that Riven, though, for Viper that has yet to drop a game in the NACL. And, of course, Viper being that rank 1 player and being Riven, you know, being in the family that he is at, he is a very, very, very good Riven player. So we'll see if he can throw the wrench into the plans of Luminosity Gaming that Conviction, quite frankly, needs, because playing anywhere close to standard is look incredibly Luminosity Gaming favored. So why not get weird?
A 3-man level 1 aggressive play
Even
as they
checked it.
find the root caller onto Tactical. Still has his flash and cleanse. Does not pop either summoner spell. Will just take the health deficiency going into the level 1 laning phase.
Oh, Perry is at least going to pull off the Ivern special, which is walk in, right-click your camp, and smite of the way, and then walk out. So at least going to snipe something away from Tomio to get things started. See if Tomio is able to respond on the top side, though. As again, this does lock out Trundle kind of from the bot lane for a while, but I am concerned about the top lane. Again, in isolation, Corki into Renekton is good for Corki. If there is intervention from Luminosity Gaming, things can get very bad for Corki very quickly because Renekton is such a strong champion early on, and if you get any sort of lead, you can kind of throw your weight into Corki, and Corki can't stop it. The only way that Corki can stop it is by farming it into the items that Corki needs to be at. So would love to see Tomio really put focus on the top side early on to try and flip this matchup for Fake God, who did have a very big game 2 on the Yorick.
And I love this from Tomio. He is going for
He's here early.
a very
There's
early
no way,
showing
yeah.
onto the top side. TF Blade was trying to get the crash into Fake God's tower, but doesn't have enough time to get out alive and knows that there's no chance in burning a flash. It's first blood going over to Tomio's Trundle in game 3.
I mean, I love that timer from Tomio. I just don't think that there's any way that you expect a 3-camp level 2 jungler to be in your lane. And if you're a smart player, you would understand that in order to get level 3 there, Tomio would have had actually taken the Krugs and not the red buff, given the camps that he took in order to get level 3. So being level 2 with red buff, but knowing that that was enough to actually make the play, and then being able to get in and take this side of the map from the Ivern because you have such a big top lane advantage now, this is so good from Luminosity Gaming and just breaking the game plan that they need to break from Conviction if they want to make sure that this Corki stays useless and they get this Renekton going.
Oh no, and TF Blade TP'd back to the top side, and the wave still wasn't broken on the freeze, and now
no.
TF Blade is overextended. He has to wait to use the Valkyrie before the pillar, as he's able to at least get out alive. Decent damage back onto Tomio's Trundle, but now TF Blade is chunked. Thankfully for him, the wave is going to be crashing back into his tower.
He could get dove. If Fake God's able to ward and protect himself, I mean, Renekton is big enough that he might be able to get a dive off. As we do see TF Blade, he was up in the lane. Fake God has to burn his flash to make sure he doesn't go down. But Tomio with the red buff applied and Belk down. Flash does not get you out of a Trundle gank there. I fear that you get chased down by the troll. So TF Blade going to keep his flash, but Tomio takes the kill. And Luminosity Gaming again. That early game plan will be set up and talked about. They were able to break it. And guess what? Tomio even going to spot Perry on this side. And if you fight an Ivern like this is dangerous for Perry. He has the help of Evolve behind him. That's really the best way he can play out. He has a flash.
He's got stun actually collapsing first, but also Zazel is making his way over to the top side river. And in the end, looks like our collision course diffuses a little bit. I thought we were about to get a bloodbath here on the top side river, but it all ends up in Perry now being able to get first roam onto the top side. Fake God has to get aggressive and force TF Blade off the wave, knowing that he's about to get ganked by this Ivern. He's forced the flash out of TF Blade's Corki, but now he's in a world of trouble unless he can get his cooldowns back up off time. But Perry is able to lock him down with the root collar, and TF Blade is gifted his first kill of the game.
Very good answer from Perry. TF Blade, I think he might have been able to find a kill if he had enough fury to empower the W. He was able to get on TF Blade, but it's not close. As the root connects, the kill connects, and things get evened up. Up in the top lane is... Oh, Tactical! He went for the dash in!
Well, Viper wasn't expecting that much damage to come out of Tactical Zeri that early on, but the execute and the, I guess... I didn't even see if it was the empowered auto attack. It was just...
Yeah, it was. It was a love tap from the empowered auto attack. Secured the kill. Miscalculation there from Viper. As now he's being sent to the Renekton lane. And again, as Riven, this is not exactly a lane that you want to be in. Viper does have the Ignite, which is going to help a lot when Renekton does ding 6. But this is still a tough lane for Riven to be in.
Not super far behind in CS, but dropping that death does not spell confidence here for Conviction Esports. They've been able to stabilize and at least be able to find some answers early on in this game 3 against Luminosity Gaming. And then as a reminder, when we talk about how well Conviction Esports can play the identity of their composition, if they're able to get to that mid game, then there's a way that Conviction Esports can fight back. But Viper is now forced into the top side. He's got stun though in his back pocket, and now Fake God, remember, he doesn't have flash, but Zazel has teleported to the top side, so Fake God pops the dominance. Here comes Tomio, and now it's a world of trouble for Conviction Esports. Zazel committed the flash to get into range. The two-man knock up into the two-man death squad. Conviction Esports lose out on their bot lane, and TF Blade can't do a damn thing to salvage it. No, don't face check the bush. He's able to Valkyrie back to safety, but Luminosity Gaming are starting to take control of this game 3 once again.
Still look, he's no Velk, no flash, as they're trying to find him. But that is such a good read from Luminosity Gaming. I think that when you see the Riven get sent top into the Renekton there, I would say as the opponent, if I'm LG, guys, Conviction has to play to this lane. Like, they're going to play to the Riven lane. If they just leave it up here at isolation, like, what's the point of playing Riven, and why are we putting it into this Renekton lane? So Zeyzal comes up on the answer, and Zeyzal and Tomio have been nothing but on point in these finals. Fake God able to continue playing out this fight very nicely, and the Renekton gets a really efficient double E off, along with Q, and just no chance of winning that skirmish for Conviction. There's a great read from Tomio and Zeyzal that answered the play and got a very good counter gank off to make sure that play went LG's way.
Grubs have now spawned on the Rift here. Luminosity Gaming not necessarily in position for it yet, as Conviction Esports will have a chance to make the first rotation over for the objective. Tomio might just opt in to trade for first dragon of the game instead. I guess Luminosity Gaming just respecting the fact that they don't have nearly as many ultimates versus what Conviction Esports have at their pockets. So this is the first time this series that Conviction Esports will be able to secure all 3 grubs for themselves.
Well, topside still doesn't look too great for them. I mean, they get the grubs. We'll see if they can make anything happen to really use them. Because like the wave clear of Zeri Aurora is pretty good. And it definitely is a point of the game where, at least when plates are up, I don't see a world where Conviction can really push to, you know, in a 1v1 or a 2v2 here, like, they're going to need help to take down these plates. So I'm expecting to see an overload up next out of Conviction as they look to elect what side of the map to play off of, as Fake God does have to burn the Dominus here on the top side. As we do get the split map scenario, Conviction staying strong up top. We'll see if Fake God opts to play the next wave, which he could TP back to, but that's a risky one. Okay, he'll take it.
Harry doesn't have Daisy for this play. Not sure if they're going to be able to actually threaten Fake God on this dive, but TF Blade is using stun as the person taking up all the turret shots, but Fake God just says, okay, dude, I'll take that trade any day. He doesn't even go down, not even nearly threatened. And Conviction Esports, meanwhile, we're trying to look for another all-in into the mid lane, but Insanity being able to use his ultimate and his flash to escape from harm's way. Viper not able to find a solo kill there either.
That is Steel Cap Renekton at its finest up top there. As, yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter. That's a cannon wave, but you are Renekton. You can stand in the middle of the wave. You have Steel Cap, you have Phage, you were strong early. You get to delete waves as Renekton, given your E and your Q, and yeah. He made Stunt and Conviction look a little silly up there, as that play doesn't connect, and Luminosity Gaming get even more of a lead on this top side, Rafa.
In the words of a wise man I work with all the time, that's tough.
Well, it is a little tough. We'll have to see if it bounces back here, because this is a final. Conviction again. I mean, this is match point. They got to win 3 games in a row against Luminosity Gaming. They're the only team that has beaten Luminosity Gaming a single time here in playoffs. And I haven't been, like, there's been really nothing in the series that has convinced me that Conviction could win or has been up at really any point. I mean, this has just been almost a victory lap or a display of dominance from Luminosity Gaming to really stamp their mark in this playoff run and show they're ready for the real challenge of Fight in Disguise for the LTA spot.
Yeah. I mean, knowing that this guy's made considerable upgrades and even took a Cloud9 roster to a full 5-game series in their last bow out of the LTA 2025 season. Luminosity Gaming definitely need to be on their A game if they're going to want to contest Disguise for that LTA slot going into the 2026 season. TF Blade and Stunt trying to make the best out of this next couple of minutes of the laning phase. They haven't been able to get that many turret plates for themselves since credit to Fake God being able to survive a 1v3 and take down Stunt with him in the time being. Tomio shows up on the top side, waiting for Zeyzal to look for the headbutt pulverized combo. Stunt goes on to Tactical, but is trying to flash away, but the pillar keeps him locked down, and Tactical is gifted another death over from Stunt.
Kind of hard to play Leona into a Trundle Alistar game. Definitely have a bit of empathy for Stunt there.
Well, Perry secures the Grom.
Not much
Perry
empathy
flashes
here.
into the wall. Perry is
Flashed
dead.
over the wall. Yeah. I mean, I don't know why you flashed down there. You just flash over the wall and join your Corki. Instead, flashes down into the wall. This is also the AP build on Ivern, not the fully supportive build. So not going to find a way to sneak in the redemption as Now Tactical.
Oh no.
Yep.
Oh no. TF Blaze thought that he might as well try and flip the game here and see if he could find the 1v1 against Tactical with the Gatling gun firing, but Tactical has a Yuntal arrows. He's got the item diff in his bag, and Luminosity Gaming, this might as well be a victory lap with a 3,000 gold advantage at 12 minutes into the game.
I feel like they're really trying hard to earn their Korean barbecue out there on the Rift, as a 3-0 would be a pretty defining way to do it. I know these guys boot camping up in Toronto again. Didn't come together for the boot camp until it was time for NACL playoffs, and this team really didn't come together in their final form this summer until it was time for playoffs. I mean, this was not the team that we saw in the regular season. We were thinking coming into the playoffs, you know, are we going to see any holes in Luminosity Gaming? Like, are we going to see some of the same maps we saw from the regular season where, some of the comps they're playing didn't work. Like, they had a couple goes of Wukong Braum. They gave up that combo. Decided that wasn't the go. They tried a couple other things that just, didn't work out. I think that they really found a style in playoffs with Insanity playing a lot of artillery mages, none of which he's played today, but played for the majority of their run. And then, like, from week 1 of playoffs, our 3 favorites were Supernova, Dark Zero, and Luminosity Gaming. Both those teams struggled. LG did nothing but take care of business, and really, since week 1, we felt like they were the favorites to win this, the ones that we had all year.
And now Conviction are going to try their chance at trying to slay the Crocodile a second time. Fake God is forced to use his flash and dodge out on what could have been another root caller here, but now...
Oh my.
That means Luminosity Gaming get to make a cross-map play of their own. They eliminate Stunt for a 4th time this game, and Luminosity Gaming now get to reap the rewards of taking out first brick of the game here on the bottom side of the map, while Fake God is still doing work and making Conviction Esports really dig everything they've got in their pocket just to make it happen. Insanity showing up, takes out Perry, looking for Evolve next. This way's got no flash. This way is dead, and Insanity just destroyed everyone on Conviction Esports.
The rotations from Insanity, they were electric in game 1. They're back in game 3. They win out on the top side attempt by Conviction Gaming. While that was going on, Tomio, of course, made that Leona look like the most paper Leona I've ever seen in my life. As he melted through that thing, took the dragon for himself, and Luminosity Gaming, 3 games in a row, where it feels like at the 15-minute mark, they have an insurmountable lead against Conviction.
I didn't even register that TF Blade had died to the turret shot before Insanity was able to get any assist gold for himself there, but that kill credit does end up benefiting Fake God in the end. And, well, Matt, Luminosity Gaming now have a 5,000 gold advantage over Conviction Esports here at the 15-minute mark. Conviction Esports, for their credit, they are the first ones here in the river. I don't know if that's going to be enough to contest this Rift Herald in their own right. Tomio and the rest of Luminosity starting to close on in. The walls are closing and surrounding them, and now they're losing their teammates. Perry gets the first one to die, and Luminosity now can continue the chase as Fake God finds the right side. Flank Evolved is knocked up and sent back to the fountain, and Luminosity Gaming will continue to bully Conviction Esports out of Summoner's Rift, out of this grand final, and showing why they are the best team here in the NACL.
This is looking like one of the most one-sided games that we've had in the series so far, as, I mean, that gold lead has once again ballooned to over 5k gold. And Luminosity Gaming, they're the ex-pros on the Rift that have had the pro diff today against the streamer team, and Conviction. One last shout out from what the looks of things to our sponsor in prodiff.gg. Scan the QR code on your screen. Get one-on-one coaching from the pros and the pros only. Thank you to prodiff.gg for supporting us for the entire split and most of the year.
I'm pretty sure a couple of the teammates from Luminosity Gaming are pros that you can schedule one-on-one with. And, oh boy. Yeah, that hurts for TF Blade. Just trying to do everything he can to absorb any gold, any resources he can before Luminosity Gaming just close and surround him in the time being. They have 2 dragons to their name, and they have pretty much everything they need to try and start closing out this game here, Matt.
I really hope that a series this dominant from Luminosity Gaming can get fans excited to see these guys compete against these guys for that spot. As Zazel goes down holding the wave and doesn't even pop his ultimate as he gives the shutdown away to Stunt. That looks rather troll, but we'll take it. Wow, okay, this is gonna be really hard to start this point after I just watched Sajed do that. Anyway, all right, so Luminosity Gaming. I think a lot of folks, they see the names be familiar on their screens, and they're like, man, like, I want new faces in LTA if they're gonna promote. How could you not root for a team that is doing this to a league? These guys did not get the opportunity to compete from the orgs that were in the league themselves. They band together and make the league, frankly, look silly in their playoff run as they try and earn the right to fight Disguise, and looks like they're going to do so as the first seed now to try and promote into the LTA North playoff. That excites me. I find it very hard to not watch matches like this and not get excited about a team that's playing so well and is looking to finish it now against Conviction.
Fake God is the first one to lunge onto Viper with Tomio in his back pocket. He gets the flash over, but Tomio's able to flash, chomp, and send Viper back to the graveyard. Luminosity Gaming continuing to just rally Conviction deaths up to now a 19 kill score here in Game 3. You called it, probably our most dominant game of the series so far. We were expecting that maybe in this third game, Conviction Esports, with this creative draft pivot, that they were going to be able to give Luminosity Gaming their toughest challenge yet, but it just seems to be the most dominant statement that Luminosity has had here in the NACL.
These guys are looking to prove to everyone that they were overlooked by the Pro League. They're going to earn their way back there and do so with style as they're looking to, again, win back-to-back NACL splits. I mean, for Zazel, Tomio, and Fake God, they have won the last 4 NACL splits they've competed in. That is stupid, just as a stat. Again, the fact that these guys, we recognize they haven't had the same success at the pro level. I think some of it is, I think the real strength of these guys is that they are a very intelligent team, whereas mechanically, sometimes they do get gapped at the highest level, whereas here, mechanically, they're very, very strong players as well. But you just cannot deny, or I have trouble not, having an immense amount of respect for what these guys have done in this league. They are the final bosses of Tier 2 whenever they've been here, which has been frequent. They've had to really fight and earn their spots back, and they've done so every time. They get to earn it for themselves this time around.
Another
Tomio's fall.
Viper is able to find Tomio in the first part of the fight, but Tactical follows up with a flash, pops 2 before Conviction Esports can really get the hell out of there, and everyone gets ace. Tomio is dropped, but that is a noble sacrifice for the greater cause, as Luminosity Gaming can now look to try and put the finishing touches on this game.
In a dominant series, it is 20 minutes, but in this day and age of League of Legends, we hit the Otacon, not the Baron, as Baron's going to come onto the map at the 25-minute mark. And man, I mean, this final, Luminosity Gaming have zapped all the air out, all the excitement out of the air that could have been there for Conviction. To have a streamer team go really challenge a team like this in finals, that would have made for a hell of a story, Rafa. If we were really looking to get an entertaining one, instead Luminosity Gaming shutting down any and all hopes of that. As this has not been close for an instant of game time that we have had today, Rafa. This has been a spanking of a final.
Like you mentioned earlier, a majority of this roster has won the past 4 splits of NACL that they have participated in. They have clearly shown that anytime they are in the Tier 2 league, they are far and above every other team that has come to challenge them. No matter the iteration, no matter the roster, Luminosity Gaming still are able to bring the most dominant look that any other squad can try and bring to the table. And Tomio is making a hell of a statement while Conviction Esports trying to do what they can to claim any objective bounties for themselves. But the price for taking a Mountain Dragon is pretty much everyone dying in the Dragon Pit. Stunt tries to sneak away. He's going to throw a stun down, but now Tomio pops the Subjugate, and he is just going to eat Stunt up for breakfast. One more chomp, one more bash with that club, and that's Conviction Esports down 3 members for another 20 seconds.
That's the type of kill that you find in Ranked Flex, where I all chat plus 131, because that's what Leona was worth, as, Damn. Yeah, it's been a tough one for Stunt. Bit of a one-sided game here for Luminosity Gaming, as Viper going to see if he can find Tactical, just going to take the chunk for himself. This will be Viper's first competitive loss this split on the ribbon, Rafa. Also important to note, as Conviction return to the well to see if they can win this one in style, as always, and to no avail.
They pulled out their best cards for what could have been their last game of the series to try and see if they can find a reverse sweep. The prior series where Conviction Esports faced Luminosity Gaming in the upper bracket final, they at least found one game victory against Luminosity. This time around, Luminosity trying to really show and prove that there is no question, no mistake, that they are the best team here in the NACL. Fakot once again sees that a Corki is overextended without any turrets to protect him. Tomio's going to do the same thing to parry, as he's able to at least buy some time with the power of Daisy and Glacial Augment as his keystone. But Luminosity Gaming are just a few moments away, a couple of good fights away of being able to close out the game here, Matt, and crown themselves as back-to-back NACL champions.
Yeah, frankly, I know our team predicted a 6-0 in favor of LG. I thought it'd be a 3-0 for Luminosity Gaming, but I definitely didn't think it'd look as dominant as this.
Yeah.
As Luminosity Gaming have been impressive from start to finish today. And that's one inhib down. And for Luminosity Gaming, I mean, only a couple steps away from that 4th NACL trophy for this Core 3.
Anytime that we got an interview with one of the Luminosity Gaming members and we tried to lighten the banter and ask about, oh, well, you had another dominant week for yourselves, you know, you had a great
What reality show are you watching
like,
as a team, you know?
Or what are you guys going to do to really celebrate this win? Or what are you going to do to blow off some steam? And they said, we're going to keep playing, we're going to keep scrimming, we're going to play more solo queue. Like, this is that important to us. We are really locked in. We're not messing around. We're taking this seriously. And you can see that all of that hard work, all of that dedication is reflected here in the perseverance and the resilience that they have demonstrated ever since we got to the playoff bracket in every single series they have played.
Again, I just think a true statement for Luminosity Gaming. Again, I think that a lot of people are just, like, they see these names, these faces, and they're like, you know, we've seen these guys at the pro level. What happens if they get back there again? Like, I want news faces, you know? Look, it changed this year. You get to earn your spot into the LTA, and it's undeniable that these guys are the team to beat, at least from NACL. We'll have to see what this guys can bring into them. And frankly, I mean, they're going to need to bring the gameplay that they did bring into Cloud9 if they want to try and win this series. Or win these with their spot back.
Zazel with the snap engage.
Goodbye,
on
parry.
the parry.
Goodbye, stun.
Good night, parry. And goodbye to stun, as you called out. Tactical leads the charge with the double kill. Tomio flashing forward to close the distance between him and TF Blade. And Viper, the last man standing on his signature ribbon, is not enough to deny Luminosity Gaming what was in their sights from the beginning of this 2025 season. They were determined to show that they don't belong here in NACL. They belong in the LTA to have another shot to compete with the best in League of the Americas. Luminosity Gaming are your back-to-back NACL champions!
Shout out to LG, man. I mean, that's as hype as we got today, Rafa, was the end call. Because frankly, that was a deflating series without one side of the was for Luminosity Gaming. There's only one team that's going to win today. That was LG. GG's to them as they lock down the 3-0, lock down first place in NACL and our prize pool, and also secure themselves a second life in the bracket for that LTA North Promotion Tournament. As their first matchup will be not against, Astral, that team of Summit, Ghost, Winsome, to see if you can even make the double elimination bracket or not against Disguise. It is within the bracket. They're playing against the victors of the LRN, that fielding 5 players that really haven't seen Tier 1 time. Very exciting over there. But for Luminosity Gaming, the fact that they get to slot into that double elimination bracket, I think that they are the favorites in that tournament, quite frankly, even going up against these guys who are the LTA team, given the pedigree and the form that we've seen them be in. We just have to see if they can continue that throughout their boot camp as they prep for October and prep for that tournament.
I do want to give a preview for anyone that hasn't gone and checked out what that promotion bracket looks like in terms of format, because I don't think we have a graphic of what that's going to look like by the end of the show. But with this grand final result, we have our first play-in match, which is a best-of-5 between now Conviction Esports and Astral Esports.
That's here. Yeah, that's here. I got you. And then the next match?
Then the winner of that
Disguised.
feeds into Disguised in the top side of the upper bracket. The other upper bracket match reflecting across is going to now be Luminosity Gaming against the #1 seed of the LRN, which is the SDM Tigres. then the winners of both of those upper bracket matches will play against each other in the upper bracket final, and then the winner of that goes to the grand final, and then we have a full entire lower bracket that anyone that makes it into through the play-in match will have a chance to go through. So overall, I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 best of 5 that will determine our future LTA 2026 squad for the 2026 season.
Pretty much play within a week too. It's going to be a sprint. But yeah, before we dive into that, of course, you have to take care of some business for this game. You guys in the chat can vote on who you think the MVP of the series was for Luminosity Gaming as we work to set up an interview with them as well to celebrate their finals victory. So, Nick God, Tomio, Zazel, 3 votes for MVP. I think everyone had a very solid team performance and win for Luminosity Gaming. Shout out to Coach Deos behind the scenes as well, working with those guys in the boot camp, as well as the other hands on board with the Luminosity Gaming ship that really had this team in tip-top shape, ready to go today, and frankly, spank finals. I mean, that is one of, if not the most one-sided final I've ever casted in my 4.5 years of doing this.
Yeah, I feel like every other NACL has at least gone to 4 games, if I'm not mistaken. Even Spring Split with Luminosity Gaming against Dark Zero, I think it was a 3-1, no? Or
no, it was a 3-0, but that was more competitive. Frankly, the other one that was probably the most one-sided was probably Niles' last one, with that Dragonsteel roster versus FlyQuest on Surdy and Quad 1.
Oh, Spring
but
2024.
Even this was far more one-sided than that. I mean, all three of these games were over at 15 minutes. I mean, looking back. Or, I mean, the second game is probably over at like 20. But yeah, I mean, just shocking from Luminosity Gaming. I'm not shocked that Luminosity Gaming won. I thought they'd win 3-0, even in really the level that they went to win this, though. They won in a dominant manner that I could have never expected coming into today. And frankly, I mean, they looked like that way for the entirety of playoffs. So really, really is impressive what they were able to put out on the Rift. Just a hell of a brand of League of Legends that will now get a chance to fight for a Tier 1 spot.
That's right. It is such a... Normally, whenever we see a super dominant series, I know that sometimes it might not feel the most invigorating to see a one-sided matchup, but I want to go back to the point that you brought up as we saw the domination continue consistently in all 3 games. We are so hyped to see Luminosity Gaming take their best shot against Disguised, and then at the very least see how they match up against the Tigres, because personally, when I first saw the teams for the LRN, I thought Estral Esports by far and away was going to be the favorite coming out of that tournament. The fact that the Tigres were able to best them, which is Estral Esports has so much experience from the LCK. You have a former world champion on that roster, and the Tigres were able to best them. That's going to be an awesome way to see how well Luminosity Gaming and Tigres stack up against each other, to see who deserves to be the best opponent into Disguise when they face each other, most likely in the upper bracket final.
Yeah, I mean, again, that upper bracket could be interesting. The fact there's a lower bracket, though, too, I'm excited for that tournament. I think whenever you get a double elimination, you get some great storylines that can carry throughout. Definitely had a lot of great ones in our double elimination bracket for NACL. Thinking of both Dark Zero and Supernova, falling early. We had a hell of a run from Blue Otter, even Dorado. I think honorary mention with a couple surprises there with 3 rookies taking a top half finish in NACL. So, yeah, I mean, hopefully we get some excitement as the stakes will be even higher for that one, as our Tier 2 teams will be fighting for that Tier 1 spot.
Yep. Continuing to look through the highlights of this grand final series, it really was a statement of pure dominance and absolute mastery from Luminosity Gaming. I don't know how many deaths they dropped.
It kind of looks like a pros versus Joes match, Like this did look like a pro team versus streamer team show match in the end. I mean, if the pro team try-harded, historically. I mean, I think Conviction has a lot of experience playing in a Tyler 1 money match. This kind of looks like a Tyler 1 money match, in a way.
I mean, for Luminosity Gaming, obviously Conviction Esports when we got a chance to talk to some of the individuals before the split started, they showed a lot of eagerness and a lot of excitement, and trying to prove that, hey, while yes, we are doing content and streaming our journey through the NACL, we are taking this very seriously. And look, they're gonna get a chance to play in the LTA promotion tournament. They beat every other team. They beat favorites like Supernova and Dark Zero, who we thought were going to be the other teams that were contesting for that second spot alongside Luminosity Gaming. The fact that they have made it here, at least into the LTA promotion tournament, speaks volumes about the caliber and the play ability from these individuals. At the end of the day, Luminosity, no, not many people expected that going into the split. So they have my utmost respect. And shout out to Viper, who has now successfully proven that he can play in a different role here at the highest level here in tier 2.
It's funny. I remember that we did an interview with him way back. Me and Summer.
Podcast.
And Viper talked about how he really wanted to coach his twin brothers and also would consider role swapping to AD to play with them. So it was pretty cool that he got to role swap to AD this split and prove that he could play that role at a high level. He's always played those marksman champions really well in the top lane. It was fun to see him get to play those well in the bot lane. Playing like top laners too. That's probably the most forward Vayne I've ever seen. Successfully, by the way. Which was quite fun from Viper. So we'll see if they can throw any wrenches at a lot of those teams in the LTA promotion tournament. And the fact they're there, I think, is really exciting too, because even for fans of the LRN, I mean, those are going to be familiar names competing at a different level. Right? And they get to prove they can play at that level too, which they did all year. Again, I thought Evolved played great as a mid laner. For me, he was probably the best performer of the series today too. I think Evolved, I think highly of him as a player. So we'll see what he can do. I'm hoping that he gets to continue to prove that. Him and TF Blade, especially if they want to really continue to actually pursue pro, which I know Blade has kind of talked about a little bit, as that could be an interest. So they've been good players. So if they want to pursue it, more power to them. It's been fun to watch them compete.
Yeah, I definitely, depending on what teams look like next year for NACL 2026, I would love to see all of these faces here again, because they've proven that they're among the best that we have to offer so far here in Tier 2 Americas for NACL. I still can't get over the fact that this is technically TF Blade's rookie year, but that was always a fun point to bring up when we first introduced him into his first ever competitive split in the NACL on his time with Near Airport. And having him and Hoarder be our standout rookies, as well as our some of our best top laners that we had competing across the year, was such a fun time. I believe we are just waiting for our interview with Luminosity Gaming, just making sure that everything is set up there before we get a chance to celebrate the win and get a chance to reflect on the split and year as a whole before we head into the LTA promotion tournament.
Yeah, hopefully we get a look from them. As I'm excited to see what the vibes are. I know I'm sure if you take a peek at Twitter, I'm sure the Luminosity guys are already posting about that 3-1 set of final. Definitely saved us a lot of time here on the broadcast, Rafa. As we started 2 hours and 30 minutes ago, and we're almost done. If you have any hot date plans for tonight, you can actually make them now.
Well, I mean, I was gonna ask you, but
you know what, Rafa? I just might be free. All right.
Well, you put me on the spot and turning red.
Let's get out of this. MVP. Who won MVP for that one? We're getting close to the interview. We're gonna keep on taking care of business, keep pushing forward. As MVP for that game, drum roll please. I think it was Tomio personally, but it looks like the chat thought it was Zazel. A 47 KDA throughout the series is rather disgusting. Only died once as a support. Had the most damage, or second most damage in his Nico game. As Zazel, one of the shot callers, leaders of this team, definitely showed up and showed out today.
I think one of my favorite things about his series overall was just specifically how many times he was proactively covering FakeOdd on a side lane while the rest of his team was nearly finishing up a cross-map play, because Zazel was already 2 steps ahead of what Conviction Esports wanted to do in response to the proactivity that Luminosity Gaming was doing. And those kind of plays is something that we've been able to associate with Zazel over the years, but it's always a absolute blast to see here in full display. And lo and behold, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get a chance to see the man with the legendary beard himself from the support role. Our grand finals back-to-back champion here in the NACL. Welcome, Zazel, to the interview desk. Tristan, it's always a good time to see you, buddy. I hope you've been doing well. Congratulations on a well-deserved back-to-back title. What is going through your mind right now?
I mean, I'm happy to win. It was, it seemed easy, but it was a lot of prep, and Conviction is not a slouch. I think it's just what it is. They have a disadvantage because they're willing to show everything, right, in scrims, just like NA was prior. So they have to get over the fact that we get to practice more. They're showing everything on the table, but I think honestly, we were kind of in some trouble game two, and they played pretty well overall, despite the outcome. But I am happy to win. And
Yeah, Zazel, of course, you guys were able to lock in a better spot for the promotion tournament. That's been your goal all year. Looking back, I obviously a lot goes into getting your team to a form like this. I think that regular season, there's an understanding, at least for me, that you guys have to peak the right time across 2 months. The time is now. Really feels like you guys are peaking. What was that level kind of like looking back as playoffs started and coming together for that boot camp that you guys have had? Like, what have been some of the biggest pros for you guys, and like how long are you sticking together, or are you going to be together throughout the promotion tournament? Because since you guys come together, there's been, for me, a very clear elevation of play from everyone.
so there's definitely, we pretty much came into Toronto. We're using the Shopify facility. It's actually really nice, but we pretty much immediately improved, I'd say. I'm sure it's just because people locked in, and our top side, just Insanity, Fake God, and Tactical were all on higher ping from LA.
Yep.
So that pretty much improved, but since we've been here, our win rate in scrims is, I think we had Deus does these little like mini presentations. It was 92%.
Yeah.
The record was at like 96-10 since we've been here.
Well,
so
all right. Well, yeah, that's pretty good.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
gone well, and everyone being here, I think, is a big reason for that, because last split, our win rate wasn't anywhere near that, and it does seem like my teammates especially have been peaking at the right time, so makes my job pretty easy. I just show up and collect a scheduled win these days.
I imagine that the mindset is that good when you can look at these series and just think to yourself, all right, guys, we got another scheduled win for ourselves on the books. Let's just show up, clock in, and get it done. Tristan, I want to step back to the beginning of 2025, and after the end of your season with Shopify Rebellion in 2024, and a majority of that roster being now a majority of Luminosity Gaming, what were, aside from promoting back, what were the goals that you wanted to make for yourself as an individual? And now looking at the end of this second split before going into that promotion tournament, where do you see yourself in relation to those goals you set for yourself?
So really, when I enter NACL, I view it as like, we must win. As much as people say they want like, a roster with so many rookies X, like I did that with DSG, you can win with that. And the danger of that is if you don't win and you're a prior LTA player, people will just call you washed up, and you pretty much have to win when you enter this league as an ex-LTA player. So that's like the minimum goal I set. So obviously I won that, but performance-wise, I mean, for me, it's just like being confident in what your team can do and what you can do as an individual to help win. And I feel like generally I understand how to win games if I'm not being just, outplayed individually or bad lane phase, things like that, where you can't overcome those deficits, which was obviously common when we played LTA. We didn't have the best early games. We won with Boogie when we were able to like farm and trap and things like that, but with Tomio we really struggled, and I think that wasn't really his fault, and I think part of that was like we were just playing poorly in lane, and you can't win jungle with losing lane. So
Well, I mean, you guys brought it together. I love hearing you guys all credit each other, because I think as a team, when you hit a form the likes that you guys have had compared to your peers at the moment, I mean, that's a monumental effort from you guys. So a lot of props. Zazel, of course, there's one last big challenge left for you guys, and that's to fight for that LTA North spot. You got two new teams on, or three new teams, I should say, on the horizon now with DSG and the two reps from the LRN and Estral and the Tigres, as Rafa puts so kindly. I try my best to roll the R there, Rafa, just for you. But Zazel, I know that you haven't dove into them yet, but you know, you've been through tournaments like this before, whether it's like a Worlds Gauntlet or you know, something similar like that, or double elimination formats. What's it going to be like for you guys trying to prep for that and do that remotely? Like, what's the secret sauce been for this boot camp, and you know, what do you think is going to be important for you guys keeping it going and being able to field some new opponents that have some familiar names, that have some pedigree on it, looking at the likes of a Scrawl with players like Summit, Ghost, and Winsome?
So the LRN teams were actually our main scrim partner, and obviously there's an implication there since I set our scrim record. So hopefully that speaks for itself. But they actually have a huge disadvantage. We try to like balance it on the server side, but it's really hard. So it would be funny if those guys just came out and punched us in the face, because they have to play on they have the weights on, you know, the high ping when we scrim them. Yeah, I think I was surprised by how good SDM is, the Tigers. I thought Estral would just be better by name value alone, but they're actually really good, and I think that aside from us, if anyone was going to be like kind of the wild card, it would be them, not Estral, surprisingly. And yeah, I mean, I hope we can beat DSG, and I've heard they're good. I think we're pretty good, so it'll be a good match either way.
Yeah. With DSG making some last-minute changes in their split 3, they made a considerable run against Cloud9 of all teams, so they're trying to put their best foot forward and maintaining their spot. So it just really shows that we're going to have a hell of a gauntlet between all 5 of you in battling for that coveted spot for the 2026 season. Before we let you go, Tristan, obviously this is an awesome day for you guys, and I want you to be able to celebrate it with your team. Any last words you have for us here on the broadcast?
Also, food plans. I need the team food plans, by the way, afterwards. You know.
I actually have no idea where we're going for food, but Tactical really wanted to watch the Demon Slayer movie. I think that's the thing.
Yeah!
I've never watched it, but I told him I'd watch it if we won, so just the movie. I think it's like in the middle of a series, so I probably won't understand anything, but yeah, the things you do for your AD carry. I mean,
that's team bonding.
Eating spoilers, you know, it just is what they can't enjoy the series from the start, but you'll eat the spoilers and go support the teammate, right?
Yeah. For food, yeah. I mean, really, since we've been here, we ate a place down the road called Wilbur Mexicana like every single day. It's pretty good, and it's so close to the office that I think it gave us a little option, you know.
Well, if anyone's in the area at home listening, go support a good food place and business by you guys, as it's helped fuel you guys for the win. Zazel, it's been really impressive seeing your run. I expected you guys to win coming into the day based on the tape you guys put on the Rift, and you guys won in the fashion that I was never expecting with how well you played today. So congrats. That is your 4th title in a row in terms of competing in the NACL. Very impressive from you, Fakeon and Tomio, who will accomplish that together. And excited to see you fight for that LTA spot together as well.
Thank you.
All right, Rafa, that's going to be it. Thank you, Tristan. Very impressive from him and the rest of Luminosity Gaming. Just crazy to think, I mean, 4 splits in a row, 4 wins in a row. And that pressure, I mean, I think that, you know, you think of like Jerry, who just dropped down this last split, and that pressure to win, like being that ex-pro. And these guys have really rocked with it on multiple rides, multiple hops down. They've responded well every single time. And that for me is why I find it hard to not be excited about this team, because they continue to earn those opportunities, and it's undeniable this time as they get to fight for the spot themselves as a team.
Yeah, and I really appreciate that Tristan brought up the reflection about the Shopify Rebellion roster with Tomio, because that was his debut split in LCS LTA Tier 1 in North America, and obviously we can tell you so many stories about behind-the-scenes scrims where they were boot camping in Korea. Things were going so well. Things were so promising. That's why they made the swap, and having Boogie be an assistant coach and let Tomio get his chance. And the way things played out, it just was not playing to nearly as well as it was in scrims. And you know, I appreciate that Tristan was saying that wasn't really Tomio's fault. You're not able to play at your highest level when your laners are underperforming, right? So, but now they have that chance to show up for another shot if they're able to make the gauntlet run against Disguise, and I really can't wait to see how that all unfolds. But ladies and gentlemen, that means our broadcast for our grand final is coming to a close. So let's take a review of the bracket and how we got here and where it all started, as Luminosity Gaming are your back-to-back NACL champions for the 2025 season, an accomplishment only accomplished by one other org in Team Liquid Academy. And for Luminosity, a majority of this roster was able to do something similar across Cloud9 Challengers and Disguise during the 2023 season. It is just a monumental feat to accomplish that is not easy to do, and speaks volumes about how dominant and how impressive this team really was this year.
Yeah, I mean, again, like from the start of the bracket, the favorites, the teams that were above them in the standings were Supernova and Dark Zero, and instantly they stumbled. They had issues. For Luminosity Gaming, the team that we expected to be where they're at now, frankly, as champions, they never really had a stumble in playoff. They only dropped one game on this run. That's incredible from them. And I really feel like they are one of the teams to beat in the tournament. I love the fact that Zazel's hyping up the Tigres from LRN, saying that they're a good team. They're going to be competitive, hopefully, with DSG. Hopefully, we're in for a hell of a tournament and a bracket there between the 5 teams we have fighting DSG for that singular LTA spot.
And for us here on the NACL broadcast, while our coverage of the NACL second split comes to an end today, there is still NACL action on the horizon, as we have a full-on promotion tournament, not just for the LTA, but for the NACL 2026 season that is coming up as well. So September 15th, 16th, 17th, and 18th, that is next week. Keep your eyes peeled, as we're going to be covering also teams who have made it through the second split open qualifiers and now will be competing alongside Vancouver Impact as well as CCG for a chance to get into NACL next year.
Good catch there. I almost said Jolly Rogers. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, yeah, it's going to be in a couple days from now. So those 4 dates, please follow NACL at WatchNACL on Twitter too. It won't be us on the broadcast. It'll be some new names and faces for you guys. So enjoy that as well. Excited to see what they can do with the teams we have.
Also, a couple more shout outs here. Prodiff.gg, they have been with us every step across the way here in the 2025 season. If you want to get some one-on-one coaching with former or current pros from the LTA or NACL, scan that QR code just under Cubby's camera there, or go to the website under my camera and schedule a one-on-one today, as we are currently in the 3rd overall competitive ranked season for League of Legends. So if you're trying to get some tips and level up your own game, which a couple of us here on the broadcast definitely need to do, as some of our ranked flex games.
We aren't supposed to talk about those, Rafa. At least we saved it for not the games, you know. We might have had the retreat to Minecraft to go back to a time of days past.
For team building, team bonding. And also, as Cubby mentioned before, if you want to continue the conversations for the NACL season as it continues this week, use the hashtag NACL at all of our platforms, at NACL and at WatchNACL for Twitter. And apart from that, y'all, it's been an absolute blast. It's always a pleasure here to cover Tier 2 here in the Americas alongside Cubby and the rest of the broadcast staff and crew. Shout out to Zell, Desterux, Hawk, and Beatdown Boulevard. Also, fantastic colleagues and fantastic casters here to work with, as well as Ligayase for working with us and being, you know, the best production partner they can be for us during the year. So on behalf of myself and all the broadcast staff and crew, good night, y'all. See you next time. TF Blade.
Oh, it's good.
Stunt, and Perry tries to look for the engage, but the counter engage is greater from Zazel and Insanity. Good night, Stun and Perry. It was a good attempt, but unfortunately it's just not good enough when you're down nearly 7,000 gold at 25 minutes, and Luminosity Gaming continuing to wipe the floor with Conviction Esports.
No, if it wasn't a Nico plus a Galio, maybe it would have been good. As TF Blade
No from TF Blade tries to turn the tides around, and Sandy is able to block some damage with a rebuttal, but he eventually gets shut down thanks to the Dawning Shadow. But the rest of Luminosity Gaming reinforced the play, and now it's Evolved in trouble. Now it's Viper flashing away, but he's not going to be able to escape, as maybe, just maybe, but I take it back, Tomio finds one more arc.
or win these with their spot back.
Zazel with the snap engage
Goodbye,
on the
Perry.
parry.
Goodbye, Stun.
Good night, Perry. And goodbye to Stun, as you called out. Tactical leads the charge with the double kill. Tomio flashing forward to close the distance between him and TF Blade. And Viper, the last man standing on his signature ribbon, is not enough to deny Luminosity Gaming what was in their sights from the beginning of this 2025 season. They were determined to show that they don't belong here in NACL. They belong in the LTA. To have